Losses, I'm handing them out, yeah, I had to go delegate. It feel like I'm floating, I'm lost in the moment, I swear I could levitate. They never believed that I would really fly, I had to go demonstrate. I had to set them straight. They hate when you elevate, elevate, elevate. They hate when you elevate, elevate, elevate. Yeah, they hate when you elevate, elevate, elevate. They hate when you elevate, yeah. I had to elevate. Ain't no chance I'm coming down, no. Got a soul view to myself. Yeah.
Good morning. Good morning. The birds are chirping. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Clap it up, clap it up, clap it up, clap it up. It's ATP Combat Media Show. Your boy Rain in the building, man. Shout out to everybody who is in here right now. Leave a like. Leave a like. Let me get a thumbs up while you're coming in the building. Put a comment in the chat so I can salute you guys. And when I do the roll call in about 3 minutes, man, appreciate you guys being here this morning. It's about that time. It is fight week, but we got some announcements made this week. Well, in the past couple of hours. I think we knew they were coming, though. We spoke about it earlier in the week, obviously, as well, but it looks like they're becoming a little bit more official. Additions being added to the Keyshawn Davis De Los Santos card, I think is going to be real interesting. Kelvin Davis now looks like he's going to be fighting against Nahir Albright. So we'll be talking about that, of course, as well. Brian Norman Jr. gets announced to be fighting against Jin Sasaki. I think we pretty much saw that coming, right? That was on its way. Of course, it is here. Is it going to be a big deal of a fight? I don't know. There's going to be some exposure there. We'll talk about the fight. Jin Sasaki, I've been doing a little film study on him, watching him a little bit. Nothing really that complicated with that guy. Really an opportunity for Brian Norman Jr. just be in front of a big audience and an international audience. But we'll talk about how that may translate if he's able to go ahead and handle the assignment when he goes over there, and what that looks like for him afterwards, right? And what fights become more realistic for him, and paydays and things of that nature. Maybe even bigger on the top of the news is PBC and Top Rank coming together. We heard the rumors. We heard what it was going to happen. Tom Brown acknowledging that he was willing to work with any organization, not just Top Rank, but, Bob Arum, of course, adding some perspective to that to say that specifically these guys are going to come together and start doing a lot more work, crossing the street a lot more in the spirit of competing with Turkey Al-Sheikh and what he's got going on, right? So we'll talk about that as well, what that looks like. You guys already know that not as well as Brian Norman, Gary Auntuanne will be the representative of the PBC over there defending his new WBA IBF. No, WBA, IBF. Yeah, WBA, I'm sorry. New WBA title against what's my guy's name? I can't remember his name. Andy Hiroka? I hope I'm saying his name correct, man. I don't know. Yeah, right. So he'll also be on there, getting busy, staying active. New up-and-coming guy over there at the PBC. Not new, but looks like they're starting to invest a little interest in blowing his brand up as a PBC. I always say it, not hating, but they are in a rebuilding phase. So, look, they're building up their new talent, right, obviously, as well. I think that's kind of interesting as well, being that it's not going to be against Alberto Puello, but, it's chess, not checkers, right, guys? We'll be talking about that, and then we'll open up the panel, of course, to build with the space. Ray Davis should be on his way. He'll be here soon, shortly, I'm sure. We'll be building with the space. Today's show won't be some long 4-hour show. I got a couple things to do today, but at least going to get a good hour and a half. Let's see how much time we can really pull out of it. What we got going on inside the chat right now. Deloney Fan Sports in the building. Salute to you, family. SOBTV, my God. What's good with you, family? Salute Clay and Ray. Blessings, my brothers. Blessings back to you, man. Shout out to Mo Taylor in the building as well. Thomas Hill, the mayor of YouTube Boxing. Welcome as usual here, man. Good to see you in the building. Hope you're in great spirits as well. Tiny Toon, good morning. Brother Clay, good morning to you, family. And Culture Nerds in the building saying salute Clay and ATB family. Hit that like button, people. Yeah, man, I would listen to Culture Nerds, man. He sounds like a smart guy, a real smart guy. No graphics, no nothing to get into today. yesterday I was talking about a little bit about this whole entire Chris Eubank Sr., Jr. dynamic, and how does this affect the boxing match that we're going to see happening this weekend, whether it's be a fight or a boxing match or a little bit of both, as far as Chris Eubank Jr. fighting against Conor Benn this weekend. And the more and more I look at it, man, guys, I can't lie to you, man. Like I gotta. It makes me want to celebrate Chris Eubank Jr. a lot more, just understanding the true adversity that he's dealing with outside the ring and inside the ring. And even with the rehydration clause and all these different things that he's doing, there's an argument there to say that he's doing a lot to celebrate his father's legacy, right? He's doing a lot for that. Now, we're not going to disregard the idea of the money that's on the table here, and that Chris Eubank Jr. is lacing his pockets, right? As he should, right? Prize fighters, and that's another thing. Prize fighters should not be criticized or scrutinized for chasing their money, right? I hope that we never look like we're doing that when we're talking about boxing and the fights that we want, that we're not asking these fighters to not make their money, right? That we know that they're here for that. They're taking these shots to go inside the ring to entertain us and putting their lives on the line. They should definitely be compensated. So Chris Eubank Jr. chasing his money and allowing, a big payday, maybe his biggest payday, to be one of the driving forces behind why he's jumping into this match and conceding to all these terms and conditions that don't necessarily work in his favor. I'm hearing rumors that Conor Benn maybe also looking to shrink the size of the ring as well. I'm hearing he wants it to be 18 feet instead of the normal 22 feet. He's trying to, make the space a little bit smaller so he can get to Chris Eubank a lot easier. The rehydration clause. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I stand on where I was at yesterday, right? Like, at the end of the day, there's a certain, as parents, our children aren't always going to do the things the way we think they should do them, right? We always think we know better, and we probably do know better. And a lot of this whole thing about life and the experience of life, it's a journey, is the most important thing. In other words, ups and downs, experiences build the man, right? Experiences build you. So failure, success, all those things factor in to who you become ultimately at the end of the day. The best version of yourself that the world sees is going to probably be built on a foundation of experiences, of failures and success. But as parents, we got to support the babies, right? Especially when they get to that point when they're claiming their manhood. I've got a son right now, 17 years old, getting ready to finish high school, graduating this year. And, he's going to move out and do things. And I've tried to guide him as much as I can, but at some point I'm going to have to hope that what I invested in him, the time that I put in him, the attention to detail that I put on him, the advice and guidance that I gave him up to that point will be enough for him to move forward in life as an adult, and understand that some of the decisions he might make, I might not be necessarily on board with, but as long as they're honorable, as long as he's not risking his freedom, things of that nature, that I can be man enough to back away and allow my son to have his own experiences. And I bring it full circle to say, with Chris Eubank Sr. in the junior situation, this whole entire idea of the fathers, and we're seeing it a lot in boxing. I don't know if we're seeing it more than we ever have. I think there's an argument there to say that we are, but maybe if we look back and we truly audit the history of boxing and the relationship and the dynamic between father and son in this sport, we'll see other examples. Obviously, we know what happened with Roy Jones Jr. and his father, Shane Mosley and his father, Floyd Mayweather Jr. and his father. A lot of father-son relationships that that we saw go up and down a rocky road. But ultimately, when it comes to not only the father-son dynamic, but when it comes to the father who was a legendary boxer and the son who's trying to be a boxer, I think it gets even more complicated, right? Salute to Eastside Easy in the building. Salute to you, King. Abdul Rahim, salute to you, man. What's Abdul saying here, man? Let me see here. Let me see what you're saying. Let me pull you up here. He got a little bit to say. Hi, everyone. How are all y'all doing? Like, comment, subscribe. Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn. If this was a different name, no one would care about the fight worldwide. It's just a money fight. I mean, I don't know about that, right? I think maybe in America, but I think in the UK, this is a pretty big deal, right? This is a legacy fight in the UK, but let's see what happens here. Chris Eubank Jr. lost to George Groves, Billy Joe Saunders, and Liam Smith first fight. Conor Benn is a drug cheat. The father's name is making the big fight. I agree. I think it is legacy. I think it is legacy when it comes to that. The family name is what's making it a big fight, and it's interesting, right? But what else makes it a big fight? That there's so much invested in the fight. There's a lot of emotion in the fight. There's a lot of legacy for both those guys. So what does that mean? Ultimately, we're going to get two very motivated fighters in the ring. I'll give you an example. Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao fought, and there was no passion in that fight, right? The fight was built up to be this great fight because on paper, it was going to be a great fight. But both men, you can see, didn't have much invested in the fight outside of their paydays and that was in front of them. Well, this fight right here, involving the fathers, the type of fighters they are, it's probably going to be a very action-packed, passion-driven fight. There's going to be a lot of will, a lot of fisticuffs. It's going to be a real fight, maybe not even as much as a boxing match as it will be a fight. So I think it's interesting and exciting moving forward to go into that fight. I don't think it's everything, right? Like all the intangibles, everything comes together to make this fight interesting. You know what I mean? And that's what makes fights is those intangibles. It's not just what's on paper, it's the intangibles. And this fight in particular has a lot of intangibles in it, right? But I digress and come full circle just to say that, it's sad to see Senior go through this with Junior in a public space. It's sad to see Senior choose to be on platforms and on a social media space, disgracing or cutting down his son or cutting down this fight. I don't particularly care to subscribe to any of the ideas he's saying about the dangers and what it should. Listen, man, it's boxing. These fighters put their lives on the line with every fighter they get in the ring with. This isn't about Chris Eubank Jr.'s safety exclusively. Right. I will acknowledge that he's the father of Chris Eubank Jr. and that he definitely has to be taking that into consideration. But I also would say that the ego of a boxer and what builds a boxer to be who they are. You look at Shakur Stevenson speak on himself about being the best boxer in the game, and people think he has a lot of ego, and he probably does. And one could argue that as a fighter, you need a little bit of ego. You need a little bit of edge, a little bit of I'm better than you energy that you're going to use to push you and catapult you through your whole entire career to be who you ultimately will be, whether you'll be in the Hall of Fame or whatever you'll be remembered for what you do in the space. But when you retire and you put the gloves away, and as a father's job is to be a father first before anything else, I feel like I'm seeing a Chris Eubank Sr. who's having a hard time putting away the heydays, putting away the star power and the celebration of his name and in the way that he likes it to be celebrated, because I think he'll always be celebrated. I think his son being active and doing something like what he's doing right now, taking on Conor Benn, continues his legacy, puts his name in the light. I think that's part of it. And, he needs to celebrate it on the level that it is, but at some point it can't be all about you, right? You got to put something ahead of yourself. And your son seems like a great candidate for somebody who should be put in front of yourself, and he's failing, in my opinion, at that. I'm not really jacking what I'm seeing, right? I'm not really jacking what I'm seeing, man. So shout out to them. I hope they figure that out. Looking forward to see the fight this weekend. But I definitely wanted to close that out a little bit because yesterday we did talk about it. Me and Ray talked about it. And I'm like, when it comes down to it at the end of the day, it comes down to being a father and supporting your son, supporting your family. And that's what it should always come down to. Everything else, all the extra antics, all the publicity and everything that I see Senior capitalizing off of. I don't think you need to do all that to be relevant. I think you're a relevant person just based off of the legacy that you've left in the sport, and one of them being your son. Go ahead and go support your son, man. Be there Saturday night, support him, protect him by giving him advice and continuing to be there where he needs you, where he wants you at. Operate in the capacity that he provides for you, and that's in the capacity of the space that he provides for you, and be proud and work in that space because that's where he needs you right now. Listen, respect, celebrate, support, all those things that a father should be doing for somebody like a Chris Eubank Jr. who's ultimately in the ring risking his life, right? It is what it is. What we got going on here in the chat right now. What's good, Joseph Johnson? What's good, family? Good to see you in the building, man. Hope you in great health, man. Good morning to you, man. Jason, or Jerron Purdy, excuse me, says if I'm Chris Eubanks and there's no title online, bump the weight. I feel you on that too, right? Listen, man, you never know. I'm seeing Chris Eubank, to be honest with you, I see Chris Eubank Jr. He's looking good and healthy, and he's looking pretty ripped. So we never know. He might kick the whole entire weight thing in the ass and test Conor Benn's and test the Conor Benn and his father's thirstiness for this fight. Right? They've been preparing for this for a long time. They want the fight no matter what. You know what I mean? Maybe he'll lose a little bit of money. I think there's a dollar amount set on as far as the weight per pound over how much he'll have to pay out. So listen, man, Ryan Garcia did it. He sacrificed some of his money to be in his best version of himself in front of Devin Haney. Maybe Chris Eubank Jr. Takes a page out that book, man, and we might see Conor Benn be backed against the wall and have to make some hard decisions. Who knows, right? Abdul Rahim says Conor Benn talk like a drunk, emotional, rattled person, and Eubank Jr. got under his skin. I agree with you. But Conor Benn always has been a person who, as he said it himself, wears his heart on his sleeve, right? Fights with his heart on his sleeve. He's always been an emotional, passionate type of individual, very similar to his father, as the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, right? So, I don't see anything abnormal yet, but I'll tell you, inside of the ring, I've always seen Conor Benn be a poised, patient fighter. So we'll see if he's able to do that. He's commented on it and said that he understands that he has to be poised, remove remove the emotions out of the fight and be a thinking fighter, right? Because once you become an irrational, emotional fighter inside of the ring, then you become susceptible to all types of horrible endings. So we'll hope that he steps up and he does what he needs to do. Yo, Clay, do you play Undisputed? How true is it that Ryan Garcia is back? Man, Tiny Toon salute. Yeah, I do play Undisputed. I haven't played it in a while. I'm going to get back on it. Actually going to start running, I think, like a YouTube, maybe a Twitch thing on the games a little bit. I've been rocking out on that. Obviously the Call on Duty and everything like that as well, which has nothing to do with boxing. But I'm going to get back in my gameplay. I got this PS5 since the thing came out, and I think I've played it like, I don't know, a very small amount of time. It's like I play a game for like a week or two, and then all of a sudden I get bored and I'm not playing it anymore. Let's see. Devontre Jones says, especially if my son is making us our money for the family, he should stand behind the business. 100%. When Chris Eubank Sr. Decided to help his son in boxing and become his trainer, he knows what the sport is. All the things I hear Senior saying right now would hold a lot more weight if he was trying to get in front of Junior boxing, period, right? If he was trying to get in front of him boxing, period, I would give more weight to what he's saying, to the idea of how dangerous the sport is. But you're comparing what he's getting ready to do against Conor Benn. By the way, in a weight class that he's competed in most of his career at 160 pounds, granted the rehydration clause wasn't part of it, but still, the fight game is a dangerous game. You know what I mean? One way or the other, right? But you're looking at your son, Chris Eubank Jr., who's getting ready to be 36 years old in September, 35 years old right now. This is a real life grown man. We say that with like Floyd Schofield Jr., who's like 20 something, 23, 24 years old, whatever his age is. And one could take that with a grain of salt, right? To say that although he is a grown man and he has a son as well, maybe Floyd Schofield Sr. does hold a little bit of weight. And, you can empathize with his whole perspective on his son still being a young man. And he's not going to leave his side. He's going to make sure he guides him because he still has a young man mentality. But at 35 years old, getting ready to be 36 years old, this is a whole different conversation. Your inability to accept this grown man's decision and be a trainer for him and be able to say, listen, I don't like the way the rules are for this fight. I don't like the rehydration clause, but you're the boss here. You're the fighter, right? When it comes to what you're going to do with your career, when it comes to what happens in the ring as your trainer, I'm kind of the boss, right? I'm guiding you and I'm giving you advice on how everything should move. But when it comes to the moves you're making, I'm here to support. You'll hear Derek James say, man, I'm waiting on the phone call, right? When the fight gets made, that's when I step into the space. So with Chris Eubank Jr., it's similar, right? It's where it's like, you might not agree so much, but if you truly care about your son's well-being, then why would you move away from his side at what you're saying is the most dangerous fight of his career, right? This is the most dangerous fight of his career where he can truly be hurt. And you're standing on the sideline and not communicating with him, right? Because he's not making you the boss, as you said, right? Once he said that he was the boss and you weren't the boss anymore, he no longer wanted to speak. You no longer wanted to speak to him. You don't want to communicate with him. He's violated some unwritten law, father-son, boxer to boxer trainer law. And, you know, this violation can't be enabled by conceding and right, by conceding and participating in this circus of a show where my son tells me what to do, or where the boxer tells the trainer what to do. I won't be involved in it. Yeah, I think it's a little disingenuous. I think it's a little disingenuous for Chris Eubank Sr. to choose to operate from this position, man. And like I said, man, what would be great, Ray Davis was speaking yesterday about how this might be a literal strategic play by the Eubanks together, or at least from the father's perspective, as where he's, you know, purposely throwing, you know, smoke grenades and bombs and distracting Conor Benn in a way to give him a false sense of confidence and security in the fight. If that is what it is, then, you know, fair play, genius. We'll celebrate you for that. If I were to see, you know, the Eubanks come together, hug on each other, and we got you, I'll be like, you did. That was diabolical. You really did get me. But until then, man, it just looks like the play of a man who can't let his ego rest. You know what I mean? Take that badge off your shoulder. You know, take that accent that you have. I'm sure it's a real accent, but the extra, you know, you don't got to be so extra. Allow your son to be at the front and the star, and allow him to shine, man. Allow him to shine and celebrate him shining, and find some proud energy to where these are some of the best moments of your life, to watch your son be the man that you raised him supposedly to be. Be proud of that. Watching him move his own plays, negotiate his own deals, delegate and move the pieces around him where he needs the pieces for himself to make his career, and be happy and proud of what you've created, instead of trying to micromanage every aspect of your child's life to the point to where it's not even his success. It's not even him anymore. It's you, right? You're taking that away from him, his ability to say, I did something. You're smothering that from him, and you're making it all about you. And it's toxic, man. It's truly toxic to watch, and sad, man. It's sad because it's on the media. It's on a public platform for millions of people to see. It's not an inside thing going on. It's not how it probably should be. I'm sure fathers and sons go through this all the time, but wow, making it so public, jumping on these big channels and having these conversations where you can't even celebrate him and what he's trying to do in your name. It has to become some sort of charade and circus thing that he's being part of, and you're disgraced and disgusted by it. And yeah, it's just nasty work, man. Who else is in the building? Salute to Bruce Gas Boxing in the building, man. Salute to the scholar amongst scholars in the building. Thomas Hill, man. How you feeling? How you feeling? Says he is smug indeed, but it's to what you're speaking to right now. They building the magnitude of the ass whooping. Okay. If the ass whooping, I'm down. Oh, Ray Davis is in the. Oh, Ray Davis is right there in the back. Salute. Hope everything's good with you this morning, man.
Chilling. Tired.
No doubt.
Still, yeah, man. Long day yesterday. For everything else, man, all good, bro. All good. Great breakdown, though. Listen, I hope I am right. I still think the whole baboon softness and like self-centeredness of Senior is, I think it's genuine. I just think he also has, I mean, he doesn't hold a dog in the fight. And if he does hold a dog in the fight, obviously he's gonna say blood thicker than everything else on this earth. So I'm going to lean towards, any type of activities of or ignorance towards my son over anybody else. So I get it. But like I said, man, who really cares? At the end of the day, he wants to be the crown prince of boxing. Let him. You know what I mean? Like, who cares? Like, let him. He's losing out more for a sport than he should be over his family. And like you said, narcissism, man. I agree with you. I never disagreed. So I'm just letting you know, like, and not saying that you did say that, but I'm just letting you know, like, I think he does have a soft spot. I think I froze up for a second. Soft spot. So I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure he does, man. I'm sure he does, but you know, you just got to kind of get out. And it's hard, man. When you're celebrating, I can only imagine what it is to be celebrated on that level, right? To be the eye, you know, just everybody focus on you. You know, you look at some of the older videos of Chris Eubank Sr. Showing up to certain events, and the how people received him, the cameras, you know, all about him. You know, he went and bought a big semi truck, you know what I'm saying, to pull up to an event one time. Like, he loves it, right? Every moment of it, to say something that captures the human spirit and has them enamored with everything that comes out of your mouth. Celebrated like a gladiator in the ring, and, you know, achieving things like beating Nigel Benn when all the odds were against you, and even the fear in your own heart you speak on was so great. You were so scared of this man. He was the Dark Destroyer to you. He was a nightmare, and you were able to overcome that. The Queen of England acknowledged you and allowed you to stand next to her on a float going down the middle of England, and you were celebrated throughout the whole city for beating Nigel Benn. And, you know, I get it, right? It's a whole lot of
Exactly.
What do you do when that goes away, right? When you're being celebrated like that, and you're that guy, right? And I'll bring it down to earth to something even more tangible for us, right? Being athletes, right? If you were, I know you were an athlete, and I don't know if you were a star athlete, but I think you started pretty much in most of your positions and kind of recognized as one of the best in your positions during that time in your area, right?
Right.
To be celebrated like that, and then once that goes away, right? Like, in order to be that level of athlete, would you say that you would have to dedicate a good amount of your time to it to get that good, to be on that level? Would you say that?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I tried to live through my success. You know what I mean? I think I was just so advanced. When everybody started catching up, that's when I started having to step on the gas. I mean, there was one kid, he went out to Penn State. That kid came from nowhere. That kid couldn't even walk straight, man, when he was growing up. And out of nowhere, this kid was dunking the basketball. I'm talking about like 7th grade. Small, shorter than me. You know what I mean? Just got fast out of nowhere. Just took off naturally. You know what I mean? So,
just bring it full circle to not get too far from it, right?
No, I know what you're saying. What I'm saying. Myself
for you to be who you are, you had to dedicate, like, wake up in the morning,
right?
Do things outside, you know what I mean? Train, eat a certain way, be in the weight room. Like, you had to commit a lot of your personal.
Yeah, that's where I'm going. That's where I'm going with it.
Okay.
That's where I was going with it. I'm just saying, like, once the kids started catching up and like catching up to me running and strength wise, I had to go put in the work. I had to go be the better person. Like, when I see them doing 10 sit-ups, man, I was going out there doing 20 sit-ups. When I see them doing, you know what I mean, 20 bench presses or adding plates to their bar, I added 2 weights to my bar. Like, I literally kept pushing myself to be stronger, to be faster. I ate better. Ate recovery meals better. Like, I started getting into it. So yes, you're right.
So I say that to say that the lifestyle becomes all about this thing that you're focused on achieving. Now it's over with. You're not being celebrated for that anymore. You don't do that anymore. You might find yourself with a lot of free time, right? In comparison to the time you had before, right? Like, all of a sudden, like, if you choose to stay in the gym and you choose to continue training as if you're going to do something, you can choose to do that. And a lot of people do that as well, by the way, right? They just stay in that mind state. A lot of athletes who retire from professional sports and get a lot of money, they're rich as hell. They have nothing to do after their career. They might have a degree or something, but they don't know where they want to go. You might find them in a gym constantly still. You might find them still showing up to practices and celebrating and high-fiving the team, just trying to be relevant and still be in the space that they've been in since 9, 8 years old. You know what I mean? Because they don't know where to go after that. Do you think it's possible that Senior is in that situation where he just doesn't know what to do with his time, where he's really feeling like this is all I know how to do? I don't do anything else. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but be the boxer, be the star, be the character.
Yes.
Right. And he's having a hard time like dropping
transitioning
it because it's his identity, right? Like it's who he is at this point.
Right. I mean, his fame came from that. His fame came from boxing. His like you said, beating the queen. Like, they really have to go out there and buy the Bentleys and, like you said, the trucks and stuff like that to show off of who he was and start dressing into the uniform, like the I don't know if that's really military, but the like casual wear that he has. No, he didn't have to do none of that, but he did. For what reason he did it, I don't know, but it is what it is, bro.
I mean, yeah, we can safely say the reason he did it was for what he thought was going to benefit his, you know what I'm saying, his career. He had a strategy. We can't get in his mind, but we could say that, you know, I would say this at a minimum. I think the cameras had a lot to do with it, right? The perception had a lot to do with it, being that so many people were watching him. He was on television. Whatever he decided to do, whether it was dress a certain way, speak a certain way, carry himself a certain way, had to do with the eyes that was on him. He probably wouldn't necessarily have been that way if it was private, if the cameras weren't on him. So, and which is cool, right? We're okay with that. We understand the idea of marketing oneself in a certain way and carrying yourself. You're in that space. But what do you do when you get out of that space? What do you do when you're not in that space anymore, where you don't need to do that anymore? You're continuing it. You're dressing that way still. You're speaking that way anytime you're finding yourself being this, but you might be being it for no reason because nobody cares anymore.
Exactly. Because when I tell people, look, that was me, dog. Look, that's me. I was the baddest running back in the planet. I thought I was somebody.
Right.
I thought I was the next Barry Sanders. You heard what Lamont Rose said, right? When I found out there was 700 of them and they started catching up to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I didn't grow. I had to go somewhere else. You know what I mean? So let's just take it from his perspective. That was me. I had hair too. You know what I mean? Like
that was the day when the shape up counted, right? When you sit down, making sure the line was right.
You know what I mean? You had to
right, man.
Yeah.
With the line, man.
Let's keep it a buck. You know what I mean? But it is what it is, Clay.
So now you have a son, right? And he's moving in your footsteps, right? And I'm just giving a scenario. I'm not putting your personal business out there one way or the other, but I'm painting a picture of your son is following in your footsteps, right? He's a football player now, and he's getting a bunch of accolades. Well, I told you I wasn't going to try to get.
Oh, got you. My bad.
You know I mean, we could do that too, but I was trying.
He's running some truth to it, so I got you.
Right. We're gonna mix it up a little truth and a little bit of also. We're gonna keep your private life private at the same time, right? Yeah. So he's walking literally in your footsteps, right? And he's getting the accolades, and you've trained him ever since 5-6 years old to move that way. And now he's getting ready to go to college, and it's time to let him go, right? But you're an active father. He's going to a school to play in some Division I football, but you understand that you have to let him go a little bit at this point. He has coaches. You're not the coach. You were the high school coach. You were the junior high coach. You were the PAL. You know what I'm saying? You created him. You could take the respects of being the guy who actually created him. But now he's going to college, and the coaches over there like, hey, bro, we appreciate you. You're welcome to sit right there in the front, right there, the bleachers. You're welcome to, but we're going to need you to, that high school issue was doing, yeah, bro, respectfully. You know what I mean? I got a program I'm trying to run. And you are going to make that choice to be like, all right, man, I'm going to step back. You know what I'm saying? But you're sideline coaching. You're shining. Every time you show up to the practice, half the building is running up to get your autograph. Oh, damn, Ray Davis, I know your son was here. You're doing this. And it's happening consistently all the damn time. And your son starts to feel like, hey, Pops, much love and respect for you know what I'm saying? But, you kind of this is my time. This is my time to shine. We only get a small window to be, and you're kind of killing it for me. So I'm gonna ask you to step to the side a little bit more. Don't show up as much, but I still want you around. You choose to take the position of, oh, listen, if I can't be there, then I don't need to be there at all. If me being here in the capacity that I feel I should be in, I'm helping you out. When I come to people are showing up to come see you because I'm in the building. And now you're going to ask me to step to the side? Yo, save it. It's good. Say less, gang. I'll be at the crib. Don't worry about it. I won't be to none of your events anymore. It becomes a little extreme now, right? Because now the truth of the matter is it wasn't for the benefit of your son, was it? The benefit was you keeping that energy you had when you was a star, and you're feeling that buzz again, and you're remembering that. And people are wanting to take pictures next to you, and they're remembering you now, and you don't want to give that up now. Now it becomes your star power versus your son's star power, right? You don't want to listen to your son and operate in the capacity that he wants you to operate in, where he wants you to still be the advice, the training, the support, but he wants you to control your likeness that's outshining and overshadowing his likeness in his time. And now we got this feud going on between you and your son, where you're got a story in your mind, you concocted in your mind that your son is being resistant to you because he feels like he's better than you, and you won't accept the fact that it's okay for my son to want to shine. I can remember when I was shining like that. If that is what I'm doing to him, and if he's feeling that way, then I can play my position because I love my son and I want him to shine, right?
Right. And to your point, and I actually was going to say that too. That's why I stuck my finger like, yeah, Devontre, you right. So Deion Sanders is that guy, right? He took his kids to certain places and was like, yo, I'm doing what I got to do. What Deion Sanders do? Even though he's coaching, he praises his kids. He always tell them, no, my kids is the people you want to see out here. So what does LeBron James do? LeBron James still wanted to play with his kid. He made it a point to share the court with his kid and to be the first father-son tandem on the team to win a championship. Like, basically, he's doing it for him. He's not doing it for his son. He's doing it about his son, but he's doing it for him. He's put himself out there. LeBron James should have retired how many years ago? He should have been focused on his son.
On you know what I mean? Conversation, but I've been thinking about that too.
Yeah, he's putting himself in that position.
His son shouldn't be there. He should allow his son to grow naturally and allow him to. But no, I need you here now because I'm not going to wait for 3 years, 4 years for you to properly develop. We need to do this now. Now you got him looking a certain way where he's not ready to be there, and you're trying to paint it like you're doing it for him, and you're not. Because if you would, you'd allow him to grow in his space the way he needs to grow, which might involve him not playing next to you on the Lakers. I agree with you 100%, man.
Yeah. And then Deion's kids is what? They moving on. And he's saying, I did that. I brought them there. They on their own. They grown men now. Mm-hmm. I'm going to still run this Colorado team. Y'all can have that. Right. Y'all have my boys now. They made it. So it's very similar to what you're saying. Like, you got the Connor Benn and Nigel Benn on one side of the street in that scenario, and you have the Eubanks in the other. And that's what it looks like. And what's going to happen? Bronny James going to resent his dad. He's going to show him.
Yeah, bro. I'm all on board with this. What's up, Ray? Would you be like if your son fumbled and messed up? Would you be like, man, if that was me?
If that was me, yes. I got the Al Bundy moment. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I have the Al Bundy shit. Like, yeah, back when on my day, I ran for 4 touchdowns in one game. Absolutely. Yes, Pokai all day, dog. Like, are you kidding me? What dad don't do that to build his son's confidence when things happen? Come on, man. How many persons be like, yo, when I was out on the block, bro, I used to walk through the hood. Like, come on, man. How many dads say that? Yo, I remember me and this. You know what I mean? Come on, man. Those are legendary stories, bro. Yes, I'm gonna throw it, rubbing his. Yeah, that was me. You know what I mean? Yeah. Oh, come on, man. Everybody do that.
It's a very interesting thing to watch kind of play out. And like I said, I would love for what you described as yesterday, as far as the chess dynamic of it, the real cunningness, the pieces being moved around with strategy in mind and what's happening. If that's the case, then man, I'm excited. You know what I mean? That's what's up, man. But if it's what it looks like, And I say that because it may not be that, but if it's what it looks like, that nah, bro, nah, man. You're doing the worst thing ever, man. You're being the worst thing ever, and it's a problem, and it's getting in the way. Your son and your son's relationship with you is well beyond boxing, man. He's 35, getting ready to be 36 years old. His boxing career probably has another 2 to 3 years max before he hangs it up himself. You want this to be what you're working back from? The ego is a diabolical villain, man.
Right.
If it's not controlled, it could be your worst enemy, man. 100%.
Right. So, I mean, basically what I'm saying is the guy is self-centered. The guy is who he is. And no, I would not rub it in my son's face. The conversation of him from. I would teach him how to hold the ball better. Like, yo, this is how you do it successfully. But that's cool. Anyway, back to what we were saying. Because it still aligns with what we were saying. That's why I actually answered that. No, you can't be self-centered. You can't make the whole situation about you, but I think he is. Regardless of how it is, he's making it about him. That's why I would kind of compared the Floyd moment. Floyd Sr. looks sad. Most people sided with Floyd Sr. because he put on the puppy dog face back then. Oh, my son, I told him I did, and he wanted the attention. Also, he just wanted to act. He didn't care. He loved his son enough to say, yo, I brought him here. But he also wanted to be recognized for it. He wanted to be on the Mount Rushmore of greatest trainers for that, Clay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And because he did that, Floyd was like, yo, you did nothing. You know, Floyd and him got into it. Scenario is Floyd Sr. was able to step back because he was getting paid. At one point, he realized, yo, I'm getting paid. I can go do this with somebody else.
There's the link. My bad. Echo, there's a link if you want to jump on, man.
Yes. And he, because of the ways he was acting, and he kind of figured that, yo, I'm getting paid to do this. I'm doing that. So when you have Chris Eubank Sr. doing the same thing, I believe he really thinks all this is that's in a little bit. I just think that the rivalry to him would be the WWE heel turn good, turn heel situation so bad, Clay, that I could see him spiking the punch a little bit. You know what I mean? For the other and delivering the juice to the other side of the arena or the ring. Listen, man, y'all can beat my son. He's a bum. He's a nobody. He didn't even want me there. Here,
right.
Here's some punch. Here. You know what I mean? And then there you go. But then he kind of feels like he has a win-win because my son whipped your ass. At the same time, I don't, he's bringing a legacy with him from my blood. So I'm going to accept that. But at the same time, you didn't listen to me. You know what? I'm glad I did what I did because I forced you to be that guy. Like I can see him trying to take credit for it. Like either way, but it's just too much self-centeredness. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, man, it's and the reason I brought it up this morning and we started off the show with this conversation because this is where we ended yesterday, and also I've been thinking about it. And it's just like when you think about Floyd Schofield Jr. and Sr., when you think about T.O. and his father, when you think about all the fathers, all this toxic, and this one right here holds a little bit more weight off the strength that Senior Eubank was a legendary fighter. At least with Junior. It's I don't know which one's worse. I think with Junior is a little bit worse with Floyd Schofield because he wasn't the boxer. And it's like, damn, bro, you actually trying to live something you never lived through your son. Whereas Eubank is more like dealing with he's dealing with more of a spiritual tie. It's something he's an addiction almost that he had already, and he's having a hard time letting it go. Where it looks like Floyd Schofield Sr. is more so trying to get something he never had. And he, you know what I mean, at the cause of his own son, like it's a little bit different, but once again, father and son dynamic is diabolical, man. You know what I mean? It truly is, man. Salute to the OG Echo in the building.
Got the Ferrari shades on, got the collar pop. Hey, that's all. Look at you.
Yeah, you do look different this morning, Echo. You look like you just came out riding the Harley. Look how you was outside today. Look like the weather changing a little bit over there. What's going on over there?
Yeah, the weather's a bit better now. Yeah.
Yeah. So, man, you're over there on the other side. First of all, how are you doing? I don't know what time it is over there. I can't remember. I'm assuming it's very late.
It is 4:15. No, 4:05. Sorry.
Okay, that's a good time of the day. So, how's everything going on over there across on your side of the
Everything is good. Everything is good.
All right. Are we looking forward to this weekend's blood tie legacy fight between Conor Benn and Chris Eubanks? Where we at over there? How's it look over there?
You know what? A lot of people have got mixed feelings about this fight, that it shouldn't happen. Some people think, well, it's part 3, basically, like a continuation.
Yes, sir.
Which I believe that's what it is, really. It's just, because I believe that Nigel Benn won the second fight.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. A lot of people,
and even Chris Eubanks Senior has said that as well. So
exactly.
So whether it should happen or not, I mean, who are we to judge that? It's happening. That's it. But obviously, there's a big demand for it. Else you wouldn't get 60,000 people in a stadium. So.
And a lot of money behind it. And
exactly.
I think both these guys genuinely want a piece of each other at this point, right? Pause, right? Like at this point, I think I heard Chris Eubank Jr. speak on it. I had to agree with him when he said, now this fight, although it is a legacy fight for our fathers, but we also have some flesh in the game. We have some skin in the game. There's some real disdain that we have for each other. There's a storyline that we've built for each other with the PED and with the PD usage of Conor Benn, and just the words that have been exchanged, and then add on this egging that happened as well, to where it's like it's kind of gotten its own little momentum going on, on top of what the fathers did. You know what I mean? What, 1993, 1992? I don't know. Sometime back then, or whatever, however many years ago that was.
1990, the first
90?
fight.
The first fight, right?
With Ben and Eubank, that was 18th of November, 1990.
Right. And what was the second fight? Was it 92 or 91?
93.
93, right. So yeah, man, it's kind of gotten its own little thing going on as well. But where are you on? Have you been watching Chris Eubank Senior?
I've seen something. I've seen it. I watched him a few times. He's very eccentric. He talks about all these different things. I mean, really, he's not moved on from the past. Really, he's still back in the day. Really, he's talking. He's romanticizing boxing in some way. That's why he's talking about poems, and he's always talking the poems. I mean, I know poems like he does, but I wouldn't preach it to anybody. I know poems by heart, even 200, 300. I know even know the poems that he knows, but I wouldn't go on there putting that as any. It's nothing. It's what you get from it. Also, you don't push it on people.
Right.
Right.
He's
living in the past, to be honest. He's still living in the past.
How do you feel about his position on this fight? The position that he's standing firmly behind, as far as supporting his son and how he sees it, and all the different intangibles he talks about, as far as death in the ring, and the weight classes for a reason, and the violation, the circus, as he stated, treating fighters like baboons, right? Like the way they're acting, you know what I'm saying? And his whole perspective on the sport right now that's involving, and he seems to be more enchanted with his son's involvement in it. But where do you stand as far as that? Are you empathizing with any of these things he's saying?
Well, the thing is, like I said before, he's living in the past, okay? And everybody can see that. But it's like he's gone as far as he could go in his career, and he did excellent. He was a fantastic fighter. But it's like the Apollo 11, with Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong. When they went to the moon, they said, well, what else can we do now? He's at the point now where he's lost his life now, where he's got to. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, sir.
So he's gone to that point where is the epitome of where he can go in his life, and everything else he just
he's kind of leveled out.
He is leveling out. Yeah, that's why he's got this new chat show, online.
Which I like.
And
I like the show. I like the show, by the way.
I've watched it. I've watched it a few times, and he has spoke about some things that are really relevant, you know.
Mhm.
But some of it is just a way just to show who he is, and to obviously he's expressing himself,
Mhm.
right? Which we all got to learn to express ourselves. But sometimes we have to understand that not everybody's going to be on the same wavelength, you know. And it's like people have lost fights in the past, you know, like Eubank lost, you know, he lost to Saunders in 2014, right? And that's a long time ago.
Right.
And he really could have beaten Billy Joe if he'd have started early and he was a bit more tactical with his approach to the fight.
Right.
You know, and he fought, what's his name, Groves as well.
Right.
And it wasn't like a wipeout. I didn't bust him up or anything like that.
Right.
It was just outclassed.
Right.
You know, and he lost to Smith as well. I mean, people say it was the elbow. There was an elbow involved, but I think it was more than that. It was just the choice of tactics during that fight.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why I wanted to address the tactics for this fight. You know, how it's going to go. And the reasons why.
Can I ask you a question before you go there?
Sure, right. Sure.
So I heard you saying that that he's using these things to bring attention to himself, which we all know that. Is it also the attention and the way that his son lost? Actually, someone asked a great question in the chat and actually went a long line to what you're saying, and I did reply. Is it not Connor Benn also living in the past because of his father losing and trying to continue this feud? Also, and using his ego to kind of stroke that energy, because it seemed like Eubanks Jr. was on his own trajectory. And it was Connor Benn and Nigel Benn who seemed to want this revenge tour, seemed to want this built up and bring it to your side of the world, bring them that energy. Which it worked, right? It did work. It built a great fight, but he also seemed like he poked the bear. You guys are two different divisions, you know what I mean? 2 divisions apart. Now the guy moved up another division, and now you want to meet him in that former division. Just to prove a fact that you're better than him and that your bloodline is stronger than his, even though your dad lost. How does that kind of transcend? Is that kind of how it works? Because that's how I see it.
You've got a point there, because I mean, a lot of people will feel that as well, or think that. You know, for myself, I don't feel anything about what it is. I always go by what I believe. You know, I don't let my feelings get involved, you know, in this kind of thing. But it is possible that he's got the same, as you've said, you know, those thoughts for sure. Because in some way, he is pushing his son to be, you know, up, you know, by saying, oh, he did this in sparring, blah, 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 which it could be true, right? But the thing is, there was really no need to mention that, really. Just as anybody that loses a fight, you know, they'll lose the fight and they'll say, well, I had a bad ankle, right? Blah, 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 whatever it might be. But really, they should be waiting till their end of their career to explain these things, not after the fight or anything like that. It should be, you know, you've lost the fight, accept it, learn from it. Because really what it is about boxers, they change trainers when they lose and whatever. You know, like Eubank, he's gone from trainer to trainer, he's gone through quite a few trainers. But what it is with a lot of trainers, they think they go to the new trainer, they're going to learn new things, okay? Which is true, you will learn some new things, but you still got to practice it as well. But the most important thing in boxing is not always learning new things, is being reminded of what you need to do. Reminded of the things that you should do. You understand me? So the basics, basically. And I watched the fight, I watched people train and everything else like that. Especially Eubank, I've watched him very closely in his fights. You know, when he fought all these guys. Same as Ben, I've been watching him very closely. And people will say, well, yeah, he did this, he would beat this guy, you know, he made these mistakes. But you can easily iron out mistakes in one camp if you're willing to put the work in. You know, not everybody's going to, see that, because until you lose, you're partying. But when you lose, then you ponder about, well, what the hell went wrong? And then you go back to the drawing board and people say, well, you should have done this, you should have done that. But then it's too late then, a lot of times, if you really believe that. But it's about accountability.
Right.
Right. And I believe that, as you've said, Ray, I think Nigel Benn is living a bit vicariously through his son a little bit as well. Yeah.
Right.
But I don't think it's as bad as Eubank Senior.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's the opposite. Even though he's trying to live through his son wants his own identity. He doesn't want to be walking a yellow brick road that his dad walked. He wants to walk beside his dad in the same career, but he doesn't want to share his history. He wants to make his own history, and that's why I made the Floyd Mayweather comparison a little bit, where I seen Senior and me and Clay had a nice debate. I know you were there late yesterday, but we had a nice debate about why I believe the Eubank situation is very close to the Mayweather situation. I don't think it's 100% the same, but I think it's very similar, where they had a falling out and they have this energy where dad wants to be in the picture. He still wants to be relevant. He wants everybody to know that he was a boxer. He fought Sugar Ray, or no one to beat Sugar Ray in his mind, and that he was this great guy, and his son wouldn't be there without him. Like, he keeps throwing that. He threw that out there so many times. Then he brings fighters in there. And he tells, "Oh, this fighter's bad. He could beat any of my son's fighters." And like his mindset, we all heard him say that. It's so similar. So I think, aside from the Eubank Senior not being a trainer or anything like that, of other, he might be of other fighters, but I don't think he's going to sit there and say, "Look, I can bring somebody in here to beat my son." I think if his son started boxing or brought some fighters up, he'll say, "My stable is better than my son's stable," because to him, he doesn't know how to hedge the competition and just leave it alone and just be a father and support him. He just wants to be like the competitor. And I think on that same note, he has somebody else on that starting line next to him, which is Nigel Benn, who he beat and has a rivalry with. And Nigel wants to best him as well as he wants to best Nigel. So they're in competition with each other, where his son is not even in competition with him. So what happens? Conor Benn lines up with his father, and now he's in competition with both of them. So it's kind of like it's this weird game they're playing over there. And the only one that seems mature enough is creating all the antics, because they poked the bear, as I told Clay. They poked the bear. They made Chris Eubanks say, "You know what? This is what you want. This is what you're going to get. Egg to the face, like it or love it. I'm living it, and I'm going to accept it."
I think that, and I agree with a lot of this, right? Because without a doubt, both fathers have vested interests in the outcome of this fight. You can see it, right? I think they're expressing it a little bit differently, where I see, I think Nigel Benn, if I had to pick one, I would say Nigel Benn's approach is a little bit more healthy, right? Like, he's more so embracing what his son's embracing, right? Like, Conor Benn is also embracing the idea of impressing his father, of making his father proud, and he's loving the opportunity to potentially correct something in history he feels like was incorrect, a way his father may have been slighted. To be a son who's proud of your father that way, right? You have rare opportunities to truly make him proud at times, right? Like, you try your best to make him proud in what you're doing in your personal life. I'm sure he's trying to be a great father to his own daughter. He's trying to, be a good person, but ultimately you have these rare moments where you can do something significantly impact the relationship that you have with your father, to be like, I'm actually doing this right here for you. I'm a 147-pound fighter with aspirations of being successful at 147 pounds. You'll hear him talk about, when I'm done with this, I want to get back to the WBC, going to be a WBC champion at 147. And he has his own. This right here, going up to 160, an opportunity to make my father proud. He's embracing that, and Nigel is loving every moment of it. He's loving that his son wants to do that for him. But then you go on the other side of the spectrum where you have Chris Eubanks Jr., who didn't seem like he made a move to separate himself from his father's legacy, right? Like, I can get out the shadow of his father, but at the same time, Turkey Al-Sheikh was able to offer him a lot of money and give him vested interest, and at the same time, you know, we'll operate and move off the idea that our father's legacies is what's making this fight big, but it may be more money for him more than the actual legacy. He's just focusing on the legacy now just to be motivated in the fight. And it seems like Chris Eubanks Sr. is kind of like been a little bit, he's more so getting to the reality of it, that he's more unhappy that his son doesn't want to be part of his legacy, that he wants to make his own legacy. And although this particular fight involves his legacy, there's still a amount of indifference between them off the strength of the move that Junior did years back when he told him to step back. And now you're going to capitalize off of my legacy that you've shown me you don't want no parts of, but you'll make $10 million for it. You know what I'm saying? You'll get this money off the strength of it. So there's a little bit more of a feud there, right?
It could be resentment regarding that situation as well.
That's the word I was looking for. There's a little bit more resentment there between father
and son. I'm not saying that is what it is, but
right.
If somebody was to say that, you could understand why they may say that.
That's all I'm saying. Right. There may be a little bit more resentment there based off of the real meat potatoes of what's happening versus what we see aesthetically on the surface level of, like, support your son. You know what I mean? It's a fight.
Can I just say something? You know, he was talking about, you know, going up in weight and whatever, but he fought Carl Thompson at cruiserweight. You know, so I mean, he's saying, oh, the weights are not fair, but people have been doing this since the very beginning. That's just ridiculous statement, you know.
How do you feel about the reality also of the fear of Eubank Jr. losing, not as far as his health, not as far as, you know, his well-being, but as far as the legacy, the idea of Eubank Sr. having that edge on Nigel Benn, that it being a real rivalry, and him not believing that his son may necessarily hold up the rivalry to where Eubank Sr. wants it to remain. He likes it there.
The thing is, though, Clay, it's like if you've got a goal of some sort,
right? We
can have the goal. You know, a lot of people, you know, we're motivated by two things: fear and pleasure, right? And if you have enough fear, you'll avoid it. So therefore, if he's really scared that he will lose, you know, that's out of the picture. Then, but you need both. You know what I mean? You need pleasure. You need pleasure as well. So you've got to have the goal you've got to have the motivation towards the thing, and also to avoid what's going to happen. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? It's like telling someone to stop smoking. You tell them, well, you know what? If you stop smoking, you'll have, you know, you start working out. You can have a six-pack. You can look great. Blah 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 blah. How many people are motivated by that? Not too many people. But you tell somebody they're going to die if they don't stop smoking within 6 months. They'll stop, more than likely. Some won't even stop then. But fear is more of a motivator than pleasure.
Yes.
Pain. I'm on about, you know, the pain,
the consequence, right?
Yeah, because we've got we've got to avoid pain, and we move towards pleasure. But in order to go towards some goals, we need both as a motivator. We need both. That's why they call it the carrot and the stick.
Use them as tools.
Yeah, you need both. And think of it. Sorry, go on, carry on. What you're saying, right?
Well, no, I was gonna say, that being said, right, and I didn't want to hang too much on this because we got other topics I'd like to talk about, but I definitely want to get into the actual fight at hand that's in front of us, that's about to happen on Saturday. And I'm going to ask you, first of all, where were you as far as how you thought this fight was going to happen a couple of years back before the PED situation happened? Where were you then, and has it changed now? You know, with all the things that I don't know. I guess you're moving. You can hear me. There you go.
Sorry about that. My phone, I need to charge it quickly.
No doubt. No doubt. Where were you when this fight first was announced? Not the second one, not the second fight, but it's a fight that, you know, it was canceled in the beginning, a couple of years back when it was announced. Where were you on this topic as far as who you thought would win, who had the edge? Where were you on that? And in comparison to now, has that changed at all? But, you know, more importantly, back then, for now, that's the question.
Nothing's changed really. It's the same. It's really the same. The only difference is who's evolved the best. And I feel when I watched the fighting, as I saw the improvements, Eubank had made some improvements, but he's making some glaring problems for himself if he fights Ben in that certain way. And same as Ben, he made some big mistakes in his early career. You know, like he'd step forward with too long a step with his feet. Like I mentioned about, you know, when what's his name? Tim Tszyu, when he was fighting Fundora. Remember I mentioned about taking 2 steps rather than taking one big long step.
Right.
And that's what Ben used to do a lot. And I think now he's tidied it up, he's shortened his footwork. Because what he used to do is to take a short step with his back foot and take a long step with his front foot. Now the thing is, all Eubank would need to do, he wouldn't even need to throw much of a shot, just a short right hand, or step back and throw a right hand, and he'll walk onto it. And Ben used to point his chin the same direction as his back foot when he opened up on the right hand. So he'd basically open up like that. Right. Then he'd hook in like that. But that's when you've got to hit between the target and also throw the shot in between. What I call a half-beat shot. Right. And this is the danger for Ben. If he does this mistake and he gets too over zealous, he could get caught with that short right hand.
No doubt.
But Eubank, he makes similar mistakes. He jabs and throws the uppercut and drops his left hand a lot. He uses a lot of thoracic extension when he throws some shots. He'll lean back with his feet more together, and he won't. You know, there's all these little things that I saw that each one of them are doing. You know, there's more than I can say on here now because it would take too long. But
right.
I can see how the fight would turn out for sure.
So where are you right now as far as how this fight goes? As far as
right, okay. Well, the thing is, when somebody's making weight and somebody's already that weight, say Nigel Benn's walking around at 170 pounds, just suppose. That means it can, you know, use all the food he's got, the carbs and everything to fuel his workouts. Now, a person that's having to come down and shrink down, they've not got that. They've not got that luxury. And this is the biggest problem. It depends on where they started and also how much weight Chris Eubank's got to lose. Because the thing is, even though he's fighting at middleweight, it's like anybody else. If you've got a marathon runner or I don't know, maybe a triathlete, no triathlete's going to be very good on the day if he's not eating much carbs. Right. And this is the biggest problem. It's the carbohydrate in the water. And that's what Conor Benn's got. He won't have any problems with that.
Right. Right.
He'll be able to fuel his workouts for the last 8 weeks really well. Where Eubank would have been cutting down slowly and not having that luxury. And also it depends on how he looks on the scale as well.
Yeah, he's gonna want to make that rehydration clause in a healthy way, right? He's gonna want to stay inside that 10 pounds in a healthy weight, so he has to change.
It's not so much being healthy; it's what he's been doing with his. See, the thing is, if you go running right with no carbohydrate in your system, like people say, you know, get up in the morning and do run on an empty stomach.
Mm.
Have you ever run on an empty stomach?
No.
Now you're not going to get any triathlete to do a triathlon on just meat or a few veg. It just happen that way.
Mm.
That's why boxers and athletes, you know, when they do endurance sports, they carb up. They load on the water because that's what it's all about. And you can't, if you're having to suppress that throughout your training, then your workouts are not going to be good while you're even training for the fight. This is the only thing that I can say is that if he's not fueling the workouts well, because I watched him training and he doesn't look sharp, you know, Eubank.
Eubank?
He didn't look sharp. No, he looked very laboursome. He did.
And
maybe that could be a ploy. Who knows? But what I saw,
cameras.
Yeah, it could be. But what I noticed when Jonathan Banks was doing body shots, he was aiming at his elbow. He wasn't actually having to tuck down and block the shot.
Right.
So I saw a lot of complacency there.
So it sounds like you're leaning in a certain direction right now. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but so I mean, where are you leaning in one direction, or are you completely in on one direction?
I wouldn't be surprised if Conor Benn won.
Right.
Based on some of the mistakes that Eubank makes, and also one thing about Conor is he's very good at pulling the trigger. He doesn't wait. He doesn't think much. He just reacts. Some of the counters he's done are very, very sharp. There won't be any delay in firing back. Yeah, and Eubank sometimes has to get set to throw shots. He doesn't. He's not the same fighter that fought Nick Blackwell.
Right.
He's not. Right. He's definitely not the same fighter.
Telegraphs a little bit more. I think he kind of has.
He slowed down a bit. He paces himself more. You know, and Conor Benn. The thing that will make this fight better for both of them will be distance.
Right.
The distance control. Eubank needs to take a step back when he throws his right hand.
The rumor around Conor Benn saying that he's pushing for the ring to be smaller. I don't know if it's going to be or not going to be, but if the ring is indeed shrinking down to an 18-foot ring instead of a 22-foot ring, how does that even more so become an issue for Eubanks, in your opinion, at that point?
Not really, no, because Eubank goes on the ropes quite a lot, and he doesn't really. He's not really a person that moves a lot. You know, he just moves side to side, but he's not really a mover. People call him a boxer, but he's not really a boxer. He's you know, when he was fighting in his early days, he was throwing more punches, throwing more combos, and the uppercut as well. That's but what he does when he throws the uppercut, he drops his left hand. He does. He throws his jab, and his jab just drops, and he brings his hand down to throw the uppercut. He doesn't bend his knees.
Right. I've noticed that about him as well.
I think and also when
Conor Benn to me seems like he's going to be the athlete in the ring. Chris Eubank looks like he's going to be the one a little bit more waiting, a little bit more reserved, and I think his inability to change that pace on Conor Benn. I think Conor Benn's going to be dragging this into a fight and making it a fight. And I think Chris Eubank is not going to be able to stop that. And I don't think he can outfight Conor Benn, in my opinion. I don't believe he can do it. I don't believe he can outfight him. I think he can outbox him. And I know you said he's not a boxer, but I think in this fight, he does play the boxer role in comparison to his opponent in the ring, in Conor Benn. I don't think they're both going to be able to be. If this is a fight, I'm leaning towards Conor Benn. That's how I feel about it. If it's a fight, I'm leaning. Where are you at on that? Do you believe Chris Eubanks can outfight Conor Benn?
It all depends on, the distancing. That's what it's all down to. Because if, like I said before, if Ben, is overzealous with his feet, taking that long step, which he used to do before,
Mm-hmm.
and Eubank takes a short step back with his right hand and throws a short right hand, Ben will walk onto that.
Right.
Whether or not that, is going to do any damage, we don't know, because he's going to be stronger at middleweight than he will be at welterweight.
So you believe Conor Benn will be the stronger fighter in the ring that night?
No, I don't think he'll be stronger. I think he'll be stronger because obviously he's not going to drain himself to make the weight, obviously, and he's going to be training. His training would have been orchestrated to make him improve all the time. Raise that. Remember, if you listen to him talk, he talks about red zone, yellow zone, and green zone.
Right.
He's very well dialed in where he is and how much output he's got to, he's got to do with the fight.
Right.
Not every boxer's like that. They just think, I'm getting tired now, and I'll get my second wind. But you don't need to get your second wind if you're still in a certain zone.
Yeah.
It's like hitting the wall. When a marathon runner hits the wall,
right,
it's because he's run out of carbohydrate.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's the reason why you hit the wall, and that's usually 18-mile mark in an athlete. In boxing, that's why they call it the championship rounds. But it really happens 7th or 8th round. Really, that's when you start. That's when you should be getting your second wind.
Right.
But there is a second and third and fourth wind if you push it. That's why some boxers are able to, throw 2,000 punches in a fight.
Right.
But most of them don't dig in that deep.
Right.
They don't.
So
it's just going that extra mile, basically.
Right. What do you think about the 1 foot out the ring of Chris Eubank? Do you think he's operating like that? Does he have 1 foot out of the game? Is he at the end of his career and basically just collecting these paydays and not as invested into this? How about this? Does Chris Eubank Jr. need to be invested in the boxing space to deal with a fireball, bull of a Conor Benn coming forward? Does he need to have that? Can he have 1 foot out the ring and just walk this home easily on his?
Well, I'm going to address that, and then Ray would know about this. When Ray, Sugar Ray fought Kevin Howard. Do you remember that fight, Ray?
Yeah, it was what?
Yeah, May
right.
11th, 1984 it was.
Right.
And Ray retired after that fight.
He
thought he didn't have it anymore. But then 3 years later, he came back and beat Hagler in April 7th, 87. Right.
Right.
But when people seen him got dropped, when they saw Ray get dropped, everybody thought, well, he's not got it anymore.
Right.
And sometimes you got to know when to leave the sport. You know what I mean? Because it's like if you wake up in the morning and you don't want to run, and you should be running. Like I said before, it's not learning new things. It's being reminded of what you need to do. Once you forget those things, you've got to be able to want to do things that you shouldn't do.
Right.
And soon as you cannot do that anymore, they talk about Hagler running, he would run 10 miles a day. They were talking about, even Eubank, he used to run like 7-8 miles. Right. That's why they had that enduring career. But Sugar Ray Leonard, he only ran maybe the maximum of 6 miles. Angelo Dundee only wanted his fighters to run 3. But most of the conditioning that Leonard got was through shadow boxing. Angelo Dundee said when he got Sugar Ray Leonard to turn pro, he got him shadow boxing 15 rounds all out. Because the most tiring thing is when you miss.
Right.
Not when you hit something.
Right.
So this can be down to conditioning as well. And as a younger man, like I said, he's had more fueling for the fight because he's not had to drain himself. And I believe he wants it more.
Yeah. Who, Conor?
I think he does. Yeah, Conor wants it more. Yeah,
he does.
Yeah,
I think so.
I think that's going to be his death trap, in my opinion.
It could be.
I was telling Clay yesterday, I think him being so aggressive and now being anxious, turned into anxiousness. And now the antics from Eubanks Jr. with the eggs and constantly trolling him. That's fueling his fire, but it's also kind of like in the back of his mind, playing with his confidence. Like I think it changes to, oh, I'm going to get you. Like I can't wait. And now you're anticipating so many things that are going to be towards aggression. You're going to forget, like Clay said, you're going to be in a fight. But what happens when you're going to that ring to be in a fight, and especially somebody that's bigger than you naturally, and you go in there, and then that guy who's already established his time in that division and probably more comfortable there, what happens when he's able to sit and counter, as you said, move backwards, sit and counter?
That would be the key to the fight. Step back and throw that short right hand. Yeah, for sure.
Raging Bull, right? So when you box the Raging Bull, what does that turn into? That turns into more aggression and more anxiousness from Conor Benn. That's kind of how I see the fight going. That's why I was actually leaning towards Chris Eubanks, because I think Conor Benn is getting too many names, the C's and B's and Eubanks. Sorry. And the dad's history, the names are messing me up here because I'm trying to make the right name. Anyway, I think Chris Eubanks is betting on Conor Benn to be aggressive. He's betting on it. He wants
and he's gonna try and get that jab working first, because he needs to get the jab. He needs to get the distance right first.
Right.
And if Ben cannot handle the how can I put it? That complication, and he gets a bit agitated or whatever, and that could be his downfall for sure, because he'll start taking longer steps. But I don't believe he's going to do that. I think he's going to fight quite controlled, and he's going to open up. But the thing is when they both open up, Ben will throw more shots, and he'll throw them, in between for sure. That's what I believe. I think that's what's going to happen.
Okay.
He'll throw him on the half beat.
Yep. That's what I was saying a little bit yesterday as well. I don't think either one of these fighters are foreign to the idea of what to expect from each other. These guys aren't Rubik's Cube fighters, cerebral fighters, where it's like, I wonder what's going to show up. I think Chris Eubank Jr. knows what he expects to show up that night. And I think Conor Benn knows what he expects from Chris Eubank as far as who he's going to be and what he shows up. Like you said, staying on the ropes and certain habits that he has. I'm sure both parties are very, very aware of what to expect from each other. The question is,
of course,
what is it going to take to execute the right game plan and strategy? And if it takes will, determination, and like you said, hunger to execute the game plan from Chris Eubank Junior side of the conversation, because I believe we know, you said it earlier, Conor Benn is going to pull the trigger. He's going to be there to take advantage of, and if there's something to take advantage of, he has every plan to do that, right? And he knows the sacrifice and the risk involved in it. If I successfully execute, here's what the result's going to be. If I mess around, because I'm going to be leaving myself susceptible and vulnerable to something coming back, here are my consequences, and he's probably going to deal with those consequences accordingly. Whereas Chris Eubank Jr., if he is truly operating with one foot out of the ring already, if he's not as sharp and committed and willing as Conor Benn, can he take advantage of Conor Benn? Will he pull the trigger, as like you said you're finding him setting up things a little bit more. He sets up a little bit, which means to me, when you say that he might have an extra second or two before he lets the combination rip, or before he lets the shot go. Is that going to align with being in timing to take advantage of a Conor Benn who's coming in full speed? I mean, we'll find out that night, but what do you think?
Also, if you watch Eubank's last fights with Liam Smith, he's not throwing the tight punches he used to throw. They're much more wider as well, and he's not using a lot of torque either. He's just swinging his arms, like the left hook when he knocked Williams down. Liam Williams, when he fought William Williams, that was really just a cuff. It wasn't really a good left hook. It wasn't. He just caught him coming in, and also
he was getting caught with shots in that fight as well. He was getting caught. He started to get a little messy. He wanted the exchange when it was all said and done, but he was getting caught with shots. I noticed that.
But also, Dobson was catching Ben also. But what I noticed about Ben, he was using, he would actually cut an angle, up with the right foot and throw that right hand as well. He's very good at that. He is when he's fighting the right person. Because really, Eubank's not that great with his feet. He's not.
Right.
He's not that great with his feet.
Yeah.
So, and if you watch Nigel Benn when he was on the pads, he was doing a lot of the switching on when he was doing the pad work. Did you watch him when he was doing the pad work on the ropes?
Yes.
And that was really nice. That was really, really nice what he was doing there, and that could cause Eubank a lot of problems.
You're talking about he was pivoting, right? Like he was moving and getting off the line, and like twisting and pivoting and catching him from angles. Like, he's. I was saying that yesterday as well, right? Conor Benn is good at Conor Benn generally is going to be trying to get past the jab and close the void and make this a
That's what he needs to do. He needs to get past that jab for sure. Yeah.
In the way he's going to do it, that I can tell that you can tell the way he's going to be doing it. He's going to be setting, but he's going to be using the angles, and he's going to be stepping in and using the angles and trying to use that athleticism to probably take advantage of or at least test the conditioning and the athletic ability of Chris Eubank to be able to get in front of those situations and adjust to all this movement. Is that making sense, or is that a little off?
It is. But the thing, if you watch Conor Benn, he's got a very good, nice right hand. He throws a straight right hand, and he's got a chopping right hand where he drops his left shoulder. And you can do the drop in the left shoulder both sides. You could do it either with just a straight chopping right hand, or you can slip and throw it, and he does it both ways. And the thing is, if he slips on the inside of the right hand when Junior tries to throw the right hook, it will hit his shoulder. It won't hit his chin because he'll be going to the outside.
Okay.
And if Junior throws his left hand and he's lazy with it, that chopping right hand over the top, because remember, if you drop your left shoulder, your right hand goes higher anyway, and it goes over the top.
Right.
It's not like you have to do this like Eubank, the Eubank senior. He used to do like this big haymaker swing thing. When he knocked out Tony Thompson, the postman, right? Tony Thornton, sorry. But sometimes what he would do, he'd fall over. Eubank fell over a few times throwing that right hand,
right?
He did, or lost his balance. But what's his name? Nigel Benn had good balance when he threw that, and he throws it very similar to Conor to his dad, dropping that left shoulder. And that's a dangerous punch if it comes over the top of a lazy jab. That's why Sugar Ray Leonard was able to stop Tommy Hearns, because Hearns would jab and he'd jab up and he'd use the jab, and then Leonard will catch him with that right hand, because that's what Joe Louis had the same problem. That's how Schmeling knocked him out in his fight in June 19, 1936. That's when they fought, and that was the first loss Joe Louis had. Same problem. You in the jab and bringing it down, Schmeling coming over the top. And this is a big problem with a lot of boxers. It is.
Jones.
So where are you? You're leaning towards Conor. It seems like that's what it seems.
I am a little bit, yeah. But it all depends on the tactics and the corner. Right. Like I've said before, cornermen win fights. You've only got to look at Hagler and Duran when they fought.
Right.
Goody Petronelli won that fight for Hagler, given the tactics.
Yeah, I agree with that as well too. I think Eubank's corner is still suspect. I think it's not solid. It's not. He moved around a lot, and it looks like Conor has more of a team that he's grown with, that he's bringing. He has somebody who knows him, and he knows them. He knows them, and he's more bought into the process. It seems like Eubank has more of a advice team. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm just going to say this. Advisory. Back in the day, Mike McCullum fought Don Curry. And Don Curry had a habit of stepping back on a straight line, whatever, right? And what did George Benton, the instructions for Mike McCullum? Throw that left hook. and he caught him going back. Same as when Lloyd Hunningham beat him. Same thing. Same thing. Because everybody's got some kind of nuance that they do that can be their downfall. It doesn't matter what it is. You know,
Right.
Mike Tyson was more susceptible to an uppercut than most punches. I mean, when you watched him fight Tony Tucker, he got caught with uppercuts, but Tony Tucker never had the power, and it didn't wear him down. Where Buster Douglas, you know, that uppercut was the end of the fight for him, really.
Right. And
Set up that right hand.
right. And who else? Bruno, not Frank Bruno. Who was before Bruno? Razor Ruddock was also successful with the uppercut with Mike Tyson. He actually used that a lot, you know, in both fights. It's just.
But he didn't really have an uppercut. It was more of a shovel hook, which was more like that. But he caught Weaver with that, and he just sparked him out. You know, that's when you've got people that can hit as hard as him. That's why. Why do you think Lennox Lewis knocked him out with the right hand?
Right.
Because
I'm on about Razor Ruddock. by the way.
Oh, Razor Ruddock. Oh, yeah.
Knocked him with the right hand, because that's the best punch to throw against an uppercut.
Right.
Because the thing, if you throw an uppercut, usually you bend your knees to get the power of the shot.
Right.
So therefore, if you're going to throw an uppercut to the chin, your elbow should start on your rib. So it doesn't. So you're not bringing it down there. You understand me? And that's what Eubank does. He brings his arm down there to throw the uppercut.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're throwing the shovel hook or the uppercut to the ribs on somebody or to the body, then your elbow will be on your hip.
Right.
But your hand is not down here still. It's here still.
Mm-hmm.
Watch Hearns when he fought Aaron Barkley, what he was doing to Aaron Barkley before he got caught with a punch. He was doing that all the time. Kept throwing that shovel hook to the ribs. He nearly stopped Barkley with them body shots. He was on the way to getting stopped, but he made a mistake.
That style, does that have something to do with the height of the fighters and their opponents being smaller? Because you just mentioned, you know, 2 occasions where that made it, especially with this Eubank being a 2-3 inch height advantage over Conor Benn, and especially the arm reach is different, right? Because that plays a part. So when you're doing all these short power punches, does it make a difference in the travel into the opponent?
Of course, right. Because if you think about an angle, people talk about angles, right? Right. Going that left and right, but your angles are really up and down, side to side.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at Tank when he knocked out, who was it? When he knocked him out, I'm trying to remember his name now.
Barrios or
with the left uppercut.
Oh, Romero.
No, I forgot his name.
Then you're talking about Santos. Sorry.
Santos. Yeah. Santos. Yeah. When he knocked him out, he had to get a corkscrew uppercut because the normal one wasn't working. Now, what Eubank does, he throws that uppercut, but a lot of times he lands it with a vertical fist.
Right.
But really, a shovel hook really is landed with a 45 fist, because that's because you're going to land with the little knuckles. That's where all the power is here. Where you see a lot of people hook, they'll lift the elbow up and they'll try and now you've got to punch the hook this way and you've got to hook that way.
Right.
That's why a lot of boxers, they say to turn the hand over because it causes cuts. Like the corkscrew hook, same thing.
Corkscrew, yes. Your favorite jab.
Well, it's not really a jab because what it is, it's a sidestep and then throwing it with your back foot pivoting round. So it's a bit like a check hook, but really it starts off like a jab, but it ends landing like that.
Right.
Because really, a right cross is not. A right cross is basically a hook over the jab.
Correct.
It's not really a straight shot. You know what I mean? It goes over the jab. That's why it's called a cross. You know, so. But yeah, this fight intrigues me because obviously we don't really know where each of them are really.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be the poise, the fight, the boxing, you know, the ability for the will to be pushed over the top as far as the way the fight goes is going to make a difference. In other words, Chris Eubank's ability to slow this fight down, fight it on his own rules, or you know what I mean, the way he wants to fight the fight. And Conor Benn's ability to impress his will to be like, no, sir, you're going to actually be, you know, mostly defending and fighting my fight. And you're going to have to outfight me to beat me because you're not going to take away the steam or the air out of my cells that's going to make me continue to push the pace on this fight. I think, and I just believe, I'm leaning towards Conor as well. I don't think Eubanks can contain Conor Benn. I think he's either going to out Conor Benn, or fall to Conor Benn. I don't think this fight can be slowed down and turned into Conor Benn out Chris Eubank, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? It's going to be, whose fight is it going to be? Are you going to fight Conor Benn's fight and out fight him? Or is Conor Benn going to be forced to box because he can't figure out the cerebral strategy that Eubank puts out there and turning it into a boxing match to where Conor Benn would probably be at a disadvantage? Because I think one person is better at one thing than the other one. They both have that dog in them. They both have that boxing in them to a degree. But I think Chris Eubank brings the pedigree when it comes to the boxing, and I think Conor Benn brings that explosive fight nature to it. And one capitulating to the other one is going to make the difference. I think the balance. What do you think?
I think one of the techniques that Eubank could utilize would be the uppercut right hand with the same hand, because Conor Benn's got a habit of going down, you know, bobbing up and down and going side to side. But he could set that up with the uppercut right hand rather than trying to land that big right uppercut. Because you know, remember, people aim where you last see the head. But you don't, like I said before, you don't throw the ball in American football where the guy will be. You throw it where he will run to and catch.
Right.
And this is where the angles will come in place. If you throw the uppercut and you land it, you lift the person's chin up. So they're there for the right hand and the left hook, whatever. Right. Just like Tommy Hearns used to throw jabs to the guy's forehead to lift the chin up. If you hit the forehead, the chin goes up. Yep. You know, there's loads of ways you can do this. You know, yeah, of course. Same as if you uppercut somebody's chin, the chin goes up. It makes it. That's why the right hand, you know, they call it, you know, like a southpaw. They'll say, well, the southpaw's weakness is against the right hand. I don't really believe that. I think it's the left hook. Because why do you think Manny Pacquiao was always going under the left hook and spinning around to the side? Why do you think Roach got him doing that all the time? And remember, Pacquiao only got knocked out by Marquez because he did what I explained earlier today. He took a long step and he tripped on his foot. If he'd have took 2 steps, it wouldn't have been caught like that. If you're going to cover 1 foot, you best take 2 6-inch steps.
Right.
Because if your feet are in the air and you get hit, how are you going to move your feet?
Right. Right.
That's why all boxers should be sliding around like not ballet dancers, but like on the tightrope. If you watch a tightrope walker, they're sliding their feet along the ropes.
Right. They're never lifting their feet up and putting it back down.
No.
It's too much. The rope's gonna move crazy. You're not containing that rope under your feet. You need to control it by keeping your feet there and making sure that it stays there, so that you raise your feet up, that rope might not be there when you put it down in the same position, and it could change the whole entire your balance will be completely gone. So
that's why when people start doing pivots, they're going to make sure that if your foot is on the floor and you're gliding, you can push off that foot any time,
right?
Because it's sliding,
right?
But when you're jumping around like a jackrabbit, right? It's much more difficult.
Yeah.
You've really got to watch Holyfield. You know, when he used to throw his combinations, he used to have a little teeter up and down. Have you noticed? He used to kind of bounce up and down on his feet, but he got caught a lot doing that.
Right. So guys, look. So you're leaning towards Connor. Ray's leaning towards Chris. I'm leaning towards Connor. We'll see what happens.
Oh,
I think
switched it up now.
Oh no, I think it's 50-50, but I am leaning towards Connor. I mean, you knew that yesterday by the way I was talking. You could tell I was leaning.
I knew that. I just know you said 50-50, so I was shocked.
No. I still stand behind that. I think this fight is a very good fight.
I think Eubank wins.
I think Eubank wins.
You think Eubank wins?
Why do you think he'll win?
Oh,
I think he establishes his boxing ability, and he frustrates. I think that the antics and the frustration now that has been aggressively accepted by Conor Benn, and him anxiously wanting this fight is going to be overwhelming. And I think he's going to step into things that are going to put him in bad positions. And I think Eubanks, who doesn't really care for this fight, doesn't have really nothing to lose in this fight, has the better opportunity of being poised and collective. And I think he's going to do that with his boxing.
Yeah, I want to tap into that and just to say this, right? I think it's 50-50 for sure. I'm still there. I think it can go either way. I can see a path to victory for either one of these guys. I really can.
Of course.
I'm leaning towards Conor Benn more because I believe the will is going to make the difference. I think the intangibles are going to make the difference, and I think Conor brings those intangibles. I think Chris is a little more settled, and he's towards the end of his career. And at the same time, I want to say that I agree that I think Conor Benn is going to operate probably with a little bit more emotion than Chris Eubank. But I also believe that that's what he does. And
but we can't mind read that. We don't know how he's going to be on the day, though. He might just think, well, you know what, I need to be more calculated. And remember, he's got a good coach.
Exactly.
We don't know how he's going to react.
Does he know how to deal with it? He has emotion. He admits it. I wear it on my sleeve. He says that's just who I am. But also, being that that's who he is, he also knows how to manage it well. So the name of the game is when he gets in the ring, will the emotions put him in a situation to where he's not managing it well? I think it's safe to say, like, somebody who's always operating at that high level, it's just like smoking cigarettes. I'll say that, and it might sound extreme what I'm comparing it to, right? But if I take a cigarette right now, somebody who doesn't smoke cigarettes, and I smoke it, I'm going to get a crazy head rush. I'm going to be all out of whack and not feeling good. I'm not going to feel good. But somebody who smokes cigarettes, he's going to smoke and take deep inhalations, and he's going to enjoy it, and that's where he operates. I don't operate in that space. So if I smoke a cigarette right now, it's going to make me sick because that's not where I operate. Conor Benn operates in his emotions. He operates there. He's embraced that part of himself for not only this fight, for all his other fights. This is who he is. So
but he's got to control the anger. That's the key to this, controlling the anger.
And I think he will, because I think he's had to do it in the past. I think he's had to handle the anger because he's an angry person in the ring. Or not in the ring, but in life. Like he says, he's emotional. If he gets upset, like you saw how he reacted to Ryan Garcia when Ryan Garcia had that little semi-fake face-off, and how it he gets triggered like that. Like he knows who he is. And I think knowing who he is and operating in the space that he's embraced is truly him. The emotions doesn't hurt him. Matter of fact, I'll go on the opposite side of the spectrum, and I'll say the emotions fuel him. So pissing him off might actually dial him in even more than he was already dialed in.
But the thing is, if you notice now, right, he's even saying that he wishes that the Eubank and his dad were united, and you can see that's genuine. You can see that. So I don't think he's purely angry just about this fight. I think he's detached enough to be able to control it. I think.
Echo, do you think that the emotions, because I remember Nigel Benn, I'm calling him senior, but he's Nigel Benn okay. Basically said, you don't even know what you just did. You pissed off my son. And the way he deals with it is, he said, you pissed off my son. He's going to be even more motivated in the gym now. He's going to be even more focus on destroying you, which turns into, which to me, I translate into his focus actually goes up
Yeah.
with anger.
Yeah.
He actually takes it and turns it into, my jab has to be even sharper. My head has to be, I can't let this guy play with me. And the only way he understands that the only way to manifest this into something possible is by being the sharpest version of himself on the night of the fight. He understands what it takes to get the kill shot. He understands the focus that's needed to win the fight. He understands taking it lightly is the worst thing he could ever do, and that being emotional in the ring is equivalent to taking it lightly. You know what I'm saying? I think we're going to super dialed in, laser focus. It's all about how you process it, man. Like I compared it to the cigarettes. One person smokes a cigarette and it focuses them. It makes them drive better, think better. And I smoke it and it does the complete opposite. It makes me sick, nauseous. I can't think about nothing else. It throws me off. But the other person uses the cigarette to I'm drunk, smoke the cigarette, it makes me sober. I'm not focused, smoke the cigarette, it makes me focus. I'm falling asleep, smoke the cigarette, it wakes me up. Me, it'll make me go home early for the day. I can't work. I can't do nothing. I have no production. That's no quality production I'm going to give you. If I put a Newport to my lips right now and smoke it, it's going to be a wrap for me.
Right.
Kick me out the game, coach.
I think this fight's down to tactics and who can bring out the best tactics and who can follow the plan that can mitigate their faults or whatever, lessen their chance of being capitalized on and capitalize on the mistakes. That's what it does. And the reason why I say Conor can do that, because he pulls the trigger.
Right. But I also want to say what gets me too is seeing Conor Benn go up and weight his last fight and not look good.
It doesn't matter, Ray. You got to realize that we're wearing 10-ounce gloves now. We're wearing 10-ounce gloves.
I was going to say something else. And not only that, the activity of Conor Benn not fighting and being in the ring, I think that those things play a part.
If you're in the gym, look at Sugar Ray. He didn't fight. He didn't fight for 3 years before he fought Hagler. He said, "I don't need a warm up." His motivation was Hagler. I believe that Conor Benn's motivation is Eubank.
Perfect example. I'm glad you said that. So Sugar Ray wasn't looking for that fight with Hagler. Hagler was looking for that fight with Sugar Ray. Same scenario, right? Sugar Ray took it and played the right game plan to get in Hagler's head. He made that aggression work against Hagler. Yes, it was a great fight. It could have went either way, but Sugar Ray did the right thing. He sat there, he baited him into getting more aggressive, being, oh, you're over anxious. Oh, man, why do I need you? You need me. I don't need you. This is a similar situation. You want to do this for your dad. I don't want to do this for my dad. I don't care about you. I'm bigger than you. I'm in a different division. That's what you really want? Sure. Now the time is right to play these games. And he's been playing the games. He's been fueling the fire of Conor Benn, and he's making it more so win the war, not the battle, right? He's making a more a conscious decision to say, all these things that I'm going to do, you're going to understand that when it happens, you're going to be outplayed. We're playing chess, not checkers. And you're playing checkers because you only see those red pieces on the board that you're trying to attack. And I'm using the strategy of chess. And I'm going to play not only the egg game, the mind games, play with your aggression, your emotions. I'm going to utilize all that to pinpoint you in a position where it's checkmate, and I'm going to take you out.
But he's using that to fuel his workouts. I guarantee that.
I agree, and I think Hagler did the same. But did he overcompensate and overwork out for Sugar Ray? Because a lot of people thought Hagler would beat Sugar Ray with ease because of his aggression.
I didn't. I actually wrote down on paper that Albert Lennon would beat him.
Right.
And that was because of the stutter step. Even Angelo Dundee said that. The stutter step, that was one of the reasons why Ray was able to beat him. Because this is where styles make fights, and also tactics. And also that fight when he fought Hagler. Hagler's coaches didn't want the judge, which was Harry Gibb, to be in that fight. Now, Harry Gibb was one of the judges for the Leonard and Duran fight. Okay. And the reason he said he thought that Gibb would be voting against Hagler. But he actually said, Harry Gibb said he would have given the fight to Hagler. Now, if Harry Gibb would have been refereeing that fight in 87, right, with April 7th, 87, with Hagler and Hearns, Hagler would have won that fight. And that's the difference between understanding the art of war.
Exactly.
And that's why he lost the fight, because of Harry Gibb would have given it to Hagler.
Let me tap in this. Right? First of all, I think that I want to push back at the idea that Chris Eubanks is selling at all, that he's not invested in this fight the way Conor is. I would argue that Eubank has communicated he's even more invested in this fight than Conor Benn. And I'll say why. Conor Benn has already spoken and said, win, lose, or draw, my father's going to be proud of me. He's not needing the victory more than Chris Eubank Jr., who's already said that off the back side of this fight not working, he's going to walk away from the sport. Because if he's not able to perform on this level with somebody coming up in weight, he doesn't even need to think about fighting a Canelo Alvarez, which is his ultimate goal as far as his payday and what he really wants to get done. That's number one. The number two, as far as the activity is concerned, it's funny because Conor Benn, if we are honest and we look back to this whole time since his suspension, there are videos that have been circulating every week of Conor Benn doing the craziest drills in the gym. He's never took his eye off the prize. And the prize wasn't necessarily Chris Eubank as much as it was his boxing career, because he knew that he had a whole entire legacy in front of him. Once he was able to get off the suspension, he had aspirations of fighting Jerome Boots Ennis, Mario Barrios, taking on the division, going up to 154. He has planned a career that he's been preparing for, and Chris Eubanks has kind of been, like I said, with the 1 foot out the door. So in my opinion, what this is going to come down to is work ethic, ring rust and activity versus commitment and confidence, right? So commitment and confidence, which is what Conor Benn is exposed and showed, that he's been committed and confident in what he's going to be able to do once he's given the opportunity, and realizing that training in the gym, not drinking, partying, getting caught in the worst case scenarios, he's been committed to who he needs to be. He's going to be pulling that trigger like he never left, in my opinion, in that fight. He's ready to. He's cocked and dying to. Now you have Chris Eubanks, who's really, the question could also be asked, is he going to be too much in his head? Is he going to be overanalyzing? Is he going to be second-guessing himself? Is he going to be dealing with the ultimate worst-case scenario of, I can't get clipped tonight. I can't lose tonight. I can't fall short tonight, because if I do, my argument to stay in this sport is going to be completely compromised. And I've already stated that I'm going to walk away. I'm not saying he will or he won't, but I'm saying there are arguments out there to say that Chris Eubank might be the one battling and dealing with mental demons, and he's trying to bring Conor Benn into his world because he's looking for company, because Conor Benn is not dealing with demons. Conor Benn is dealing with dreams coming true, with aspirations of doing great things, whereas Chris Eubank is dealing with the ultimate truth, which is, do I still have it? And will I be able to live this down? I have my father who's betting against me. I have my father who's knocking down this fight. What kind of mental demons is he truly fighting with? We might be dealing with the Chris Eubank who might be on the opposite side of this conversation as far as mental games are being played. He may be the actual victim of his own mental games, of his father's mental games, and of Conor Benn's mental games. Whereas Conor Benn is coming in, he's loved, he's living his best life. He's the one who seems to not have no pressure on himself and who's ready to come in and perform at the highest level, because his career is way bigger than Chris Eubank and his legacy. His career starts really after this. Like, I'm about to go, my best fights is not going to be this fight. It's going to be Mario Barrios, Jerome Boots Ennis, maybe Teofimo Lopez, maybe Devin Haney, maybe Ryan Garcia. He's got a plethora of accomplishments in front of him that he plans on handling. Chris Eubanks, this is the end all be all for him in this fight.
You know, the thing is, Clay, one thing I've tried not to do is to be a mind reader of what people are thinking.
Truth.
Because because you don't know what people are thinking. You can just assume, you can believe certain things. I mean, you've only got to look at the people that George Foreman fought, like Joe Frazier. He said Joe Frazier was his most fearful. He was scared of Joe Frazier more than anybody. He said his knees were knocking before he fought him. But anybody watched that fight, you saw him, he knocked him down 6 times, whatever. Did he look scared? No. But you imagine, though, you imagine if somebody cannot handle them emotions. We don't know what people are going through. Just because I say to you that I'm confident that I can do something doesn't mean I can do it.
That's my point, though, Echo, right? What I'm saying is there's arguments on both sides. We don't know. At the end of the day, to say that one person's coming in distracted or unable to focus or we don't know. That's my whole point. I gave a little legitimate example to say, well, we can argue on the other side. We can go on the Chris Eubank side and bring up all these different intangibles and make him the distracted person. But the reality is this fight is a competitive fight and a 50-50 fight, because whoever is the strongest mentally and who has the better game plan is going to be who prevails at the end of this game, at the end of this fight.
But I think Eubank could be underestimating Benn, though. That could be a problem. Because he's already said, you'll find out, you've got nothing that I've not seen before and all these kind of things. He don't need that's just ridiculous to say that, because the thing is, it only takes one punch. You've only got to look at all the people who've lost fights. Like I said, Joe Louis was knocked out by Max Schmeling. Nobody ever thought that would happen, ever.
Yes, sir.
That was just a warm up. That was just
whoever gets hurt. See, like Mike Tyson said, everybody got a game plan until they get punched in the face. So we're going to have to deal with that. Who's going to deal with the adversity, which I feel like both these guys may find adversity. Right? Who's going to deal with that adversity in the best way?
But the hardest person to beat is somebody that's unbeaten. Because they don't know how to lose.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, because if you've been beaten or knocked out or been stopped or whatever, and got tired in a fight, you can be tired. That can happen again. That's why I admire Tommy Hearn so much, because after he got starched by Aaron Barker twice, he still came back and won titles. So that shows the mentality of a fighter. We don't know how Eubank's going to react, because he could say, well, I lost that fight to Liam Smith because of bad tactics. I was tired. It wasn't really the elbow. I was ready to go out. We don't know what he's thinking.
Right.
Sugar Ray Leonard, when he lost to Duran, the first thing he did was look up in the air and smile, and he accepted the loss.
I agree 100%.
That's why we're able to come back so good.
Yeah, I think the intangibles are what they are. We don't know. And that's why I say this fight is a 50-50, because if Conor Benn comes in dialed in, there's a certain way this fight could look. If Chris Eubank comes in dialed in, there's definitely a certain way this fight can look. And if they both are dialed in, then this might just come down to who the better man is at the end of the day. That it might just come down to who's the better man at the end of the day. Let me bring Fight Sports Talk in here real quick. Also, let him comment. Also, Ross Clot, 100%, brother, but 50-50 regardless, right? But I hear you. He said it's only because of the weight drain. Fine, that's what's up. But more importantly, 50-50 regardless. Fight Sports Talk, how you doing, man? You already know how we're gonna start this off. Let me know how the weather's going down over there in New Zealand.
What's up, my brothers? It's been way too long, and I'm really happy to be back on. Weather is, well, it's good because it's so early here, so it's so peaceful. And and I just hope I don't wake up any of my neighbors. But yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. It's great to be back on my favorite boxing show. So much to talk about. So do you want me to comment on the Eubank Benn fight, or?
Yeah, man, just whatever you have to contribute to that conversation, because I think there's just so many moving parts to this fight, and it makes it that much more intriguing and interesting when we're talking about all the outside of the ring factors combined with the inside of the ring factors. Where are you at this point, as we're one day away from this fight kicking off?
Well, my opinions haven't really changed much because, when this fight happened, I personally was not a big fan just because it was a bit of a forced super fight. I mean, Eubank Jr. will go down as one of the biggest what-ifs of this generation because after his failed attempts to become world champion against Groves and Billy Joe Saunders, he never, Saunders wasn't for a world title. After he failed against Groves, he never challenged any other champion. So, that's, and as a fan, we don't like that. Ben, I mean, he's had one of the biggest what do you even say to this kind of journey. But the bad blood has made me more interested. And Eubank Senior's behavior is very, very unusual because, I was very close to doing a video on this. I always believed Eubank Senior was one of the genuine fighters who really did feel bad for crippling one of his opponents for life. Like guys like Sergey Kovalev, complete different story. But Eubank Senior, he's cried when that has been brought up. So I genuinely did, believe him at first when he was trying to cancel the fight, but for health reasons. But he has gone to such extremes that I actually don't really know what to make of it. I don't know if he's actually just acting and as far as him being booted out by his son, which again, that might be where this is coming from. He's thinking, well, if I'm not going to be part of the training camp, I have to be part of the build-up in some way. I'm reminded of when Sean Porter, in my opinion, was beating Terence Crawford until he got dropped, and out of nowhere, Kenny Porter throws the towel in, and then when he gets asked about it, he says, my son didn't prepare properly. I mean, he gave him a real dressing down, and Sean Porter, much love and respect to him, but he just stood there and took it, lack of better terms, took it like a good boy. And then he says...
Well, he retired, right? Pretty much. That's how he responded.
Yeah.
I'm not fighting with you no more.
And then when he was asked about that on his podcast, he said, look, my dad and I had disagreements. I hold no ill will towards him and stuff. But then I thought, still, that was a bit of a dick move to, he would have. But this is like that on steroids. I mean, the amount of interviews Eubank Senior has done. I would almost. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, although I do believe in some conspiracies. I'm almost wondering if Eubank Senior is doing this to try and piss off Eddie Hearn because he doesn't like major promoters. And I would not be shocked if Eddie Hearn says, look, for the sake of this event, we got to ban Eubank Senior from the arena. So I hate to say it, but the weirdness and craziness has kind of made me like this fight.
I agree. I am 1,000% with that. Yes, sir.
So I guess just other. The major story, of course, is what we're going to see from Haney, Garcia, and Lopez. My opinions on that.
No, wait! Don't leave it yet. You haven't given us a pick. We didn't get a pick. Where's this fight going?
My pick is okay. Conor Benn. We don't. Okay, I'm going to pick Eubank Jr. To win on points. I do expect him to slow down because he is going to be drained. But in general, he's a very good natural athlete, very fast, very powerful, very explosive. And Conor Benn hasn't been hurting he hasn't really been hurting welterweight since he had his little egg spasm. And Eubank Jr., even if he does get hurt, like him getting knocked out by Liam Williams is very concerning. But he came back and showed character. Like I've missed your name, bro. What is your name? The
Echo.
One from the UK.
Echo the Scholar. Oh, Ray.
Echo. Yes, we've long time since we talked, but Echo. When Echo brought up when you brought up two of the OGs of OGs, Duran and Leonard. I mean, that just immediately. I use those examples all the time myself because what we want to see from fighters is can you come back from being behind and Leonard showed that repeatedly, and Duran might be the most resilient fighter of all time. So because Eubank Jr. showed he can come back from being humiliated, I like his chances in this fight. I don't think I would not be surprised again if he slows down and stuff. But Conor Benn, I have to go with the guy who has come back from defeats and proven himself against bigger guys. And Conor Benn just doesn't look the same fighter against low-level competition. I mean, how's he going to look when at a weight class he's never been at? So those are my thoughts.
Okay. I mean, we're split 50-50 here. Me
50-50.
Me and Echo are leaning towards Conor, and we got Ray Davis and Fight Sports Talk leaning towards Eubank. We will see. We will see, man. We're getting closer and closer to getting these boxes checked and see what ultimately ends up happening. I'm gonna go ahead and let you go ahead, Fight Sports, because it seems like you want to go in a Devin Haney direction. But I also want to talk about, I want to talk about this Japan card. Gary Antoine Russell looks like they have him lined up to go ahead and fight Andy Hiroko on that card, defending his WBA title. And we've got recently, which has been announced, which I knew was coming. I think most of us knew was coming. Brian Norman looks like he's going to be fighting against Jin Sasaki, defending his WBO title there. But also the story behind that is this PBC top rank new friendship and camaraderie on taking on Turki Al-Sheikh and not letting Turkey take American boxing, which I think is also interesting. I want to talk about that a little bit too, but Fight Sports, go ahead. You wanted to tap in on this Devin Haney conversation.
Yeah, well, because these guys are they were built up to be from a very young age, the leaders in this next generation, very intrigued. I think we've seen about everything we can expect from Ryan Garcia. And I do hold it against him that he quit against Tank Davis, because that's just not a good thing. I mean, to go down like that and stay down, and then the first thing you do is pop back up once the refs finish to 10. So him beating Rolly Romero is just a bit of, for me, it's very meh. Don't really care. Doesn't prove anything to me. Lopez is really going to be up against it. With Barboza, I think in general he should win. But Tio, and I feel bad because he's always been good to me when I've been asking him questions, but he is just so. I'm starting to get George Kambosos vibes. The way that he is acting so, and you'll remember I've always spoken very positive about him on your show, but I'm getting very close to picking Barboza to win, because Barboza's good technically in all areas, and Lopez, he's proven to be one-dimensional. When he can't knock you out, he just chases after you like a madman. And Barboza is not intimidated one bit. Like, Lopez went so far as to slap him at the face-off, and okay, not the classiest thing in the world, but with Lopez, it just shows just so much emotion. Like just for the kickoff press conference for the Kambosos fight, this really led me to want to pick Kambosos, and unfortunately I didn't. He said to Kambosos, "I'll put you in a body bag, man." And Kambosos said, "Look, I'll take you on right now." And Tio says, "Let's do it." He says, "You won't make weight." And then Tio, you could see his eyes kind of shift and be like, "Damn, this guy just stepped me out." And he got a little nervous, whereas Kambosos was ready to throw down right there. And what ended up happening, he matched Tio's macho-ness in the fight and beat him. So I think, very interested in that fight. And Devin Haney, I've got my questions about his skills. I've spoken to some of his biggest fans in the LWC about this, but I'll always respect the fact that first of all, he never quit against Ryan Garcia, and I thought he was going to get killed by Lomachenko in that 12th round, and instead he showed true character, which, I appreciate as a fight fan. But this is one hell of a defeat of a life experience to come back from. So even though he should beat Jose Ramirez quite decisively, we don't know what that fight has done to him. So I'm very intrigued.
Yeah. Man, I'm there with you. I'm definitely looking at Devin Haney, trying to see these adjustments, and I'm just trying to get a good idea of who he is right now. This fight, I'm thinking is a good fight to show me that. I think it's probably going to be. It's either going to be one of the more competitive fights on the card, or I expect Devin Haney to Regis program him and just like, damn, okay, well that guy just wasn't going to test him that way. As far as Teofimo is concerned, yeah, man, I agree with you, and I love that analogy you brought up as far as Teofimo versus George Kambosos about, you know, Teofimo not being able to get the mental games going and dealing with somebody who's going to meet him with that same energy, who's very confident. How's he going to deal with it? Because I think over the years, Tio has shown that he's one-dimensional. He fights one way, and he doesn't like to fight any other way. And Arnold Barbosa happens to be somebody who fights a way that Tio doesn't like, and he's also very effective and very well-rounded when it comes to that. So he's going to be dealing with a Jermaine Ortiz or Sandor Martin type of fighter. But I believe this guy has a little more pop in Arnold Barbosa. He has the ability to actually hurt Teofimo. So Tio is not going to get the opportunities to take the shots that he took against a George Kambosos, or I'm not a George Kambosos, but a Sandor Martin or Jermaine Ortiz, and he has a possibility, I think, of getting hurt in this fight. And also the power hasn't translated for Teofimo as far as I'm concerned at 140. I haven't seen his power, right, that he had at 135. So he was able to compensate a lot on where he fell short at 135. And, you know, he's a good fighter, but he was able to deal with second, third, fourth chances, right? Make a mistake, but be able to come back again. I think he's going to be made to pay for those mistakes in this fight with Arnold Barbosa. And the question that I think is going to be in this fight, the intangible, is going to be adjustments. TR, are you going to be able to adjust? Are you going to be able to take ownership to something not working and show a different look, approach it differently, and operate in a different way if it's not working what you're trying to bring to the table? Or are you going to continue to force feed us the athleticism, the jumping around, the wing it and energy that you have, the lack of preparation, the no strategy having approach that you've always brought, the freestyle that you bring to boxing? Are you going to be able to bring some structure and some strategy, and are you going to be able to answer questions and check boxes when it's required of you to do that? So we'll see if he does that, but it's going to be interesting to see, because I think Arnold Barbosa is going to force the conversation, right? He's going to bring the conversation in that ring that night. And the conversation is, no, what else do you have? And I don't know what the answers are going to be.
And that is really the most disappointing thing about Tio. Like, I don't question his attitude when it comes to fighting the best, but unfortunately, and it's just, I mean, you gotta, again, as a Tio fan, you gotta just accept what's in front of you. The guy he doesn't learn, and he never takes responsibility for anything. It's always this happened, that happened. I mean, it's just, I mean, I swear he is damn close to going into that David Icke, Alex Jones territory and say the aliens did this to me. Like, it's like, I thought he beat Sandor Martin, but boy, did he come close to losing that night. And okay, one of the knockdowns was a slip, but it was a slip that you shouldn't chase after your opponent like that, because that kind of thing can happen. And he did the exact same thing against Jermaine Ortiz, and afterwards it's all he ran. And people say, why didn't you cut the ring off? He's like, he ran from me, but Bud Crawford's running from me. I'm like, oh my God, it's unbearable. And if he loses, I think we may have to write him off as not as a fighter completely, but as a leading pound for pound great of this era. And for the one guy who doesn't have a controversial win over the great Lomachenko, who I think the world of, that is so disappointing. But it's really, I don't want to sound too negative here, but I cannot, like everybody, I had tremendous hopes for him when he beat Lomachenko, and he said in the post-fight press conference, you know, I'm ready to take the tough fights, you know, be Pretty Boy Floyd before I become Money May. Then the following week, he says, I want $10 million to fight Devin Haney. Right. And I thought, okay, a little hypocritical, but then it's just nonstop hypocrisy. I'm like, okay, if you don't win, I cannot defend you anymore.
Here's a question, right? And I'm going to pass it to Echo after this, because I want to get his perspective on this stuff. But the question, I think, is that's in the air for me, and I don't know about anybody else, is did Tio peak at 135? Is he a 135-pound fighter as far as his dominance, as far as who he is? Did he peak at 135? Because I'm telling you, he has yet to show me the dominance at 140 yet. I haven't seen it. He's won fights, but they've been close and they've been competitive. And I feel like adjustments from the people who are across the ring from him could have made the biggest difference. I feel if Jermaine Ortiz would have put his foot on the gas in the championship rounds, he probably would have won that fight against Teofimo. I feel like if Sandor Martin would have just made a few more adjustments, he could have beat Teofimo. I feel like Steve Claggett, if he made adjustments, could have given Teofimo more work than he already gave him in that fight. So the question is, and the reality for me is, I haven't seen the 135-pound Teofimo at 140 yet. I'll give him Josh Taylor. That's about it. Echo, where you at on that card?
On what? On Haney?
Yeah, Ryan. Not Ryan Garcia. You can comment on that too. Yeah, but Devin Haney, Jose Ramirez, and Teofimo Arnold Barbosa.
Well, Haney, we don't really know what he's got left after fighting Ryan. We just don't know how that affected him. However, when I watched the fight, I rewatched it probably about 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
And Haney didn't really do a lot wrong. He just fought the wrong fight. Like, I mean, people talk about the bow and arrow jab and all this kind of stuff. Everybody does that throughout the history of boxing. Mayweather got caught with using the bow and arrow hook when he fought Gatti. He got caught by Mosley with the bow and arrow. You know what I mean? So everybody makes mistakes. But what Haney didn't do, he didn't fight the right fight. But it's just how he's going to rectify that and have the right tactics. Because that's what it was down to. Because most of the fight, when he was fighting Ryan, he was winning the fight. He was outboxing him because he kept him guessing. If you watch the fight very carefully, he had Ryan basically jumping out of his skin with the feints. It was at some point he couldn't handle the feints he was throwing. But when he was moving in straight lines and just doing all the stuff that he should have been doing, like I said, moving the head straight in, he was getting counted with that. And Ryan was always going to keep throwing that left hook. Eventually, if I throw a bag of pennies at you, eventually one's going to hit.
Right.
It's just the way it is. But I'd like to see him, to tidy himself up a little bit, not be so repetitive with that technique, but also fight more like he did against Lomachenko. That kind of guy would be harder to beat, for sure, because he varied the punches, up and down. But Barbosa, I mean, against Tio, I don't think Tio is really. I think he feels it's like a game, I think he feels he's too far ahead of everybody. That's why I got the impression when I watched him when he's training. And also, he feels like it's just a privilege for you to watch him train sometimes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure he's on it 100%. Because really, when you think about it, why do you need to show somebody going to an ice bath? Like you did on you don't need to do that. That's not what you need to show people. That should be done, sparingly anyway, if you did show it anyway. But it only because you need to.
Even Turkey LSP commented on it, right?
You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that.
Oh man,
he said, "Man, I hope you're focused. Like you need to get focused. You got a fight coming up." Like Turkey
said,
back
in the ring, get back to training. Yeah,
get back to training. You got a fight coming up. Like every time the camera's on you, you're break dancing. You're pushing antics. You're doing a bunch of stuff, and what's going on?
The thing is, though, Clay, he might be training hard, right? And you might do the right things in the gym, but if your attitude is wrong when you step into them in the ropes on the day of the fight, like he did with Kambosos, he's going to lose. Right. If he fights somebody that will push the fight. I mean, the only reason Sandor Martin didn't win because he didn't push the fight.
Right.
The only reason reason that Ortiz didn't win because he didn't push the fight. I mean, I'm going to give you an example about this. You know, there was an old fighter, right, back in the day. His name was Jim Driscoll. And he said, hit first, hit hard, and hit straight. And a lot of boxers don't do that. And when I mean be first, I'm on about set up the feints. You know, be first. Don't let the person dictate. Use be you know, proactive.
Right.
That's why a lot of guys are not winning fights.
Work with resolve, right? Like work with
exactly. Fight like you really want to show that you're trying to win the fight.
Yeah, be intentional. Being
exactly.
Yeah.
To that point, can I ask this? Is Teal able to do that? Teal never seems to train with a plan. He seems to freestyle and show some type of circus acrobatic fighting style where it doesn't seem like it's a game plan. It's just like whatever I come into the ring with is me looking at my opponent, and I'm going to work with what's across from me. Doesn't seem like his dad gives him more than just, hey, let's use the jab, let's do this. Because Teal, I rarely see Teal use a normal jab. Rarely to set up feints, to do anything of that nature. He's usually like a hook, almost like a Roy Jones, more like a hook and a puncher type. You know, he doesn't have anything really that misleads the fighters. He's like, he's waiting for them to make a mistake and counter. And once that fighter decides, I'm going to play the retreat and you got to come to me, they usually utilize their jab and they hurt Teal because Teal's trying to engage in a fight and he doesn't seem to have a plan for that. With Steve Claggett, on the other hand, he had a guy that walked right into his game plan, into his wheelhouse. And Steve Claggett was able to outperform him, in my opinion, not win the fight, but outperform him on the note that Teal didn't come to fight that fight. Teal had in his mind that this guy was tailor-made for him, and he was going to be able to be the circus freak, right? Be the guy in the ring that's going to entertain the fans. And because he doesn't have a game plan, doesn't have no strategy or watch film on anyone, to me, in my opinion, it seems that he didn't know what to expect when Claggett was not doing, not playing the script, not doing the role he was supposed to play, and he was punching on Teal a little bit more than what was necessary. So I think Teal is his own worst enemy. I think he definitely needs a trainer that's going to help him. And I think that's what he's missing from 135. 135, he did use a jab and he did set up punches. I think as he became champion and things of that nature, he kind of got like Lester and said, I don't need these guys. I can do this all by myself. And I firmly believe that that's what he thinks. And he doesn't care. We'll see how he fights against AB. I think he'll actually bring the fight to AB in the next fight. And I mean, Barossa. I think he'll bring that energy because I think he fights down to his opponents. And I think he's going to have to fight up to Barossa because I think he brings more as an intangible, as a stellar fighter. And he's going to also come forward at times. He will counter Teal, but he'll come forward. So I think we'll see what Teal really has in his wheelhouse and as a fighter in this upcoming fight.
But if you look, Ray, after he fought when he knocked out, what was his name? The lightweight, when he won the unified.
Richard Comey.
Yeah, Comey, when he knocked out Comey. He fell in love with his power. He did. And this is the biggest problem when you get guys knocking everybody out. I mean, we know the story about people falling in love with the power. And that's when you stop utilizing all the other things, you know. And like you said, if you've not got a game plan, or he may have a game plan, but if it's not working straight away, he might just get rid of it and just start freelancing, whatever. And I think that's what's happening a lot of times. And that's the difference between a fighter that's intellectual and then somebody mechanical. They'll fight the same fight and expect to win the same way. This is what made Mayweather so great in his era, because he was able to adapt.
Yes.
You know, even though maybe he lost, or maybe they say he lost to, you know, Castillo, but in the rematch, it was never the same fight. Never the same fight.
And Echo, if I could just make one comment on that. One of the most successful shorts I did, where I broke down just a big fight, was his first fight against Maidana. And even though, I mean, boy, was that first fight was so much closer than it should have been. Mayweather never even remotely looked distressed in the fight. The only time he actually looked distressed was when he got cut. But aside from that, no panic in his face whatsoever. He was as cool as a cucumber. And just sorry, Echo, if I could just make one comment to what Ray said, because you really did speak my mind on this. It's not unusual to see fighters fight down to their competition. Like Alexander Usyk would have never become undisputed heavyweight champ if he couldn't improve from his win against Chaz Witherspoon. I mean, everybody picked him to get knocked out after that fight. They thought, really? And just, I mean, there's so many other examples. I mean, Terence Crawford against Gamboa and stuff like that. But these guys, you just mentioned improve, make adjustments, and Ray, this is the thing which again just gives me a headache. He can't make adjustments, and he never takes responsibility. Like I don't care if fighters say, okay, my opponent shouldn't have run from me. Like, cool, I want fighters to be exciting, but for the love of God, like just take just a tiny bit of responsibility. Like Roberto Duran would have never come back from his loss to Tommy Hearns if he didn't say, okay, regardless of how I got fat and didn't train properly for this guy, he knocked me out. I better I've got to treat Iran Barkley like he's the devil if I'm gonna beat this guy. Whereas Teo, it's always, well, these guys they aren't on my level, blah blah blah. And it's like, well, why didn't you do this and that? Oh, because it's all because of them. It's like, and Eddie Reynoso, I don't think Eddie Reynoso is the greatest trainer in the world, but again, he said, well, Reynoso didn't want any part of me. Like, again, going back to what you said, he's not worthy of being in my presence. And when you have Turki Al-Sheikh saying publicly, hey, you need to get your ass back in the gym, it's like, it's like I wonder if Turkey's thinking, man, did I waste my time with this guy? And just sorry, last thing, I thought people were being very overly critical with Teo with the Nakatani performance, but in hindsight, that was a sign of things to come because he was so one-dimensional. I mean, if Nakatani was a little bit quicker and could have moved his head a bit more, he would have won that fight. I mean, Teo was a punching bag that night, and the first thing he said after the fight was, "I'll never fight somebody taller than me again." And that's when I thought, and people were criticizing him saying this guy's a weight bully, he's not going to be the same guy if he comes up against a bully, he won't be able to stand up to him. And I thought, nah, you guys are being overly critical, like Teo's the man. And then I'm like, actually, there's a lot of truth to that. This guy just can't, if things don't go his way, he panics, he has a heart attack, and he doesn't even admit it. He says, "Yeah, everything's down." Sorry.
I mean, even when you look at the way he dealt with the results of the was it the Sandor Martin fight, or was it
there was when he said he still has it, or when he said when he started crying because they gave him the
Sandor Martin, that was.
Sandor Martin was when he said he still have it. When he started crying.
And I think that was an interesting way for him to deal with the adversity, right? He didn't have answers. He couldn't see himself performing any better than he did. And he started to question and I think he had what did Jay-Z said? It's like he had a moment of clarity, right?
Yeah.
He had a moment of understanding that, bro, is who I am going to be enough to compete at the highest level in this game? Because I don't got no other answers than what I did. What I did was my ceiling, and it was barely enough to get me through this fight. What do I do? This is
what I was saying, Clay. He fell in love with his power, and as I said earlier, I can repeat it again. When people lose, they tend to ponder. When they win, they tend to party. And he was partying too much, basically, and believing what when he fought Comey, he knocked him out. Then he fought Nakatani. He thought he could do the same.
Mhm.
And then he blamed it on the height.
Mhm.
If that was the case, David Haye would never have been beaten Valiev. Because who was taller than Valiev? He was 7'2". So, I mean, what the hell? I mean, you can't blame it on height. You just can't.
Yeah, you either got it or you don't, man. Do you have the question is, and like I said, did he peak at 135? And look, man, can you or can't you? Are you or are you not? To be or not to be, right? And all those great philosophies that we could tap into to say that, brother, it comes down to a very simple answer for us as boxing fans watching you.
I mean, height don't win fights.
You are. You know what I mean? Are you who you say you are? Are you good enough? Are you better than? Are you what you say you are? Because you harp so much on your accolades, your Ring Magazine accolades, your unification accolades, your undisputeds that weren't documented as undisputeds, and you're trying to paint a picture with the past, but you got so much future in front of you. When are you going to continue to deliver? Right, to continue to show the consistency and deliver amongst the elite that you're surrounded by right now? Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, right? Jerron Boots Ennis is about to be in the conversation. Gary Antoine Russell is in your division. Arnold Barbosa standing right in front of you. Richardson Hitchens, who's trying to get a fight with you. All these names that I feel are better than the guys you fought outside of Lomachenko. Is that going to translate into competitive fights and translate into you being who you say you are? Because you've been writing yourself a crazy blank check. You've been writing this check, and we haven't been able to cash it yet. I'm trying to see who you are, man. So this fight right now with Arnold Barbosa, I'm interested in seeing who you are. Let's find out. I'm interested in finding out what all these guys are on that card. I'm interested in seeing what this new poised, focused and dialed in on boxing Ryan Garcia is. You know what I mean? I want to see who this guy is. I want to see Devin Haney. No height advantages, no weight advantages, even playing field, coming off of adversity. Who are you? Because people have had excuses and reasons as far as who you've been in the past. So I'm excited to find out.
Yeah.
And
that's the sorry, right?
No, I was gonna say I love the height conspiracies too with Devin Haney. I keep putting it out there that
the truth.
No, it's not you. I know. I'm just saying. I just keep loving how people put that out there. But Devin is definitely known for, and this is not you, Clay. I'm just saying generally, like Devin is known for fighting 5 guys, if I'm not mistaken, before he fought Kambosos, who was also very close in height to Devin Haney, if not the same height as Devin Haney, and same size per se. So there's been multiple fighters, his height, his same length, reach advantage and things of that nature. People just like to use the factor that seems to fit. And I'm not making excuses for Devin.
No,
I think Devin has taken advantage. I know you were gonna say that. I think Devin has taken
why? Because at the end of the day, Devin significant fights, the fights that made him who he is, he's had the advantages. So he may have fought some contender, some guy, you know what I'm saying?
So,
like an Antonio Moran or maybe a Jorge Linares or some fighter that you're using as an example as far as not dominant in size, but his significant fights, the Kambosos, the Vasily Lomachenko, the significant fights, he's been, I don't want to say accused, you can say accused, but he's been the bigger guy.
Was he really bigger than Kambosos? Or were they just built? Was he really bigger than Kambosos, or were they built different? They seem to be the same size. Listen, I could be wrong.
Never fought a Jose Ramirez before or a Ryan Garcia before.
I agree, and those are bigger guys.
And you saw what happened when he fought Ryan.
The difference is, has he fought a bigger guy than himself, not a guy the same size? Because that's where I'm trying to. That's where I was going with it. A lot of people are saying, he's never fought a guy his size. He always fought guys his size or smaller. Yes, he took advantage of the weight. He stayed there a little too long. But we got to remember, Devin was scrawny at one point, and he was still doing the same thing. Actually, he was getting knockouts when he was scrawny. So as he did,
who?
So,
Against who?
Against who? First of all, Antonio Moran was a knockout of the year. Are you kidding me?
All right, that's a great one. I didn't see that one coming. And then.
Okay, and who else before that? We got who was the guy he fought? He didn't knock him out, but he knocked him down. There was a Dominican guy he fought right after Moran. He beat him up. really
Who's that
bad.
guy?
Oh, I can't remember his name, but I'm gonna tell you. Hold on.
Exactly. You're gonna find it because it's there. But what I'm trying to say is, as soon as the competition stepped up,
Okay.
that
guy was ranked, right? So he was ranked, and regardless of it being a step up or not, Clay, what the thing is, Linares was, and I want to go Linares because you said Linares, since you mentioned Linares. Linares was a guy, right? He was significant, but yet he did the same thing. Did he knock him out? No, but he was beating it. He was beating him from pillar to post until he got hit, and once he got hit, it changed. It changed the dynamic a little bit in that fight. But you have to understand, I'm not giving Devin any accolades or not accolades for certain things. I'm saying he fought at the weight that he was, and when he outgrew the weight, it showed. It definitely showed. It showed that he got a little bit sluggish. I think the Kambosos second fight, he came in a lot bigger than he did in the first fight. I think that fight he was pretty much on par. When he fought Regis, he wasn't supersized Devin Haney against Regis pro grade. He was
way bigger than Regis.
Bro, he was 6.5 pounds bigger than Regis pro grade.
Brother, everybody saw this man was bigger than Regis. What are you saying?
He was in more shape than Regis pro grade.
Whatever words you want to use.
Regis pro grade has been known to come in. Okay,
everybody.
So why is it okay? Why is it okay? Okay, so that's what you got, right?
Being okay.
Regis pro grade.
It's not about it being okay or not okay. It's not taking away from him. It's to say that he has to check those boxes. Those questions are there for a legitimate reason. Nobody's making it up. Okay. He's about to fight against Jose Ramirez, right? Really? This guy is not going to have no advantages over Jose Ramirez like he's had against other fighters. The same thing with Ryan Garcia. He did not have those advantages, and he dealt with it in a bad way. Now, look, I'm sure he'll check the boxes. He'll adjust. Mm-hmm. But the questions are, my thing is that the questions are there legitimately. They are legitimate questions and legitimate things that he has to answer. He has not shown and proven that he's been able to operate on this high level against the Jose Ramirez or the Ryan Garcia. He got caught up with things with Ryan Garcia outside of the performance enhancement drugs, outside of the weight indifference. He got caught with things that he got caught with because he wasn't. Even Bill Haney in an interview said Devin was extending on the jab. He had a bad habit of pulling back because why? He wasn't used to anybody being able to capitalize on that. He was always used to being the longer guy who could reach out and take certain risks that he could take because of his physical attributes. Once he got in the ring with Ryan Garcia, he misread and mismeasured what happened. He didn't take into consideration that Ryan's arms were long enough to capitalize and catch him with that left hook based off the fact that he didn't have the longer arms in the ring that night. So he has to make the adjustments. I mean, look, it is what it is. Devin's the scrutiny Devin Haney has are legitimate. He has been the bigger guy.
Because a lot of fighters do the same thing, and nobody
it don't matter about other fighters. It matters
my point is okay. But my point is, I was trying to make before you cut me off and let me finish what I was saying.
This idea that
all right, there we go. Go ahead.
Because you're trying to scale. You're trying to.
You know what I'm saying? You're right.
That it's
you're right. You know what I'm going to say.
I am. You're trying to sell. You've been doing it for the past 10, 15 minutes. You're selling the idea that the scrutiny that Devin Haney has is it's not fair or it's miss. That's what you're saying. Like they're making.
You didn't even let me finish to know what I was saying. You literally started talking.
You got it. Okay, continue to sell it.
I don't need to sell anything no more because you already said that's what I was going to say. My point is, Clay. No, I'm not going to change. You're not going to put that in the atmosphere and think that it's right.
Forget what I said.
Literally was going down the same road you were going down. I was building up the moment to go there, to go in other parts of the conversation. I was just stating a fact. I was just stating a fact that when people put these other fighters in the same situation, you're saying, and I was just countering how big Regis was. Regis has always been the bigger fighter in his fights. That's why he never moved to 147, because he was comfortably to make the weight, and come in 18 pounds over the weight. But yet nobody called him out on it. And Devin played the game with him. Okay, we know what your tactics are, and we're going to be the bigger fighter. right? We're not going to be a gigantic amount of a bigger fighter. We're going to be a bigger fighter, and we're going to show you what the bully does when he gets bullied. That's what that whole tactic was. But you missed that tactic, right? Because you're so busy caught up in the hype. Oh, he came in as the bigger fighter. He was 15 pounds heavy. So the hell was freaking Josh Taylor over Teofimo. He was 165 pounds. Josh Taylor came in that much bigger than Devin. And the weight ratio where Teo came in was like 148. So that's a bigger ratio. So it doesn't matter the size, right? It's the skill. So basically, Devin used his skill to beat him. He came in bigger against Loma. Loma still put his hands on Devin. So Devin moved up in weight because he knew at that time he outgrew the division. But prior to that, yes, he came into the ring. He made weight. And as long as you made weight, because I remember everybody saying that, it shouldn't matter. But yes, some of the guys were smaller in the division, and I feel the same way. I knew that. I thought that Shakur and Devin would make a great fight. But obviously that fight never transpired, which would have been equal fighters at the same size. As far as weight goes, we don't know. But at the end of the day, Clay, you knew what I was going to say. That's where I was going with part of my conversation, but you answered all the bells, so we're going to leave it there.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, the pushback I always offer when it comes to this topic is that people get triggered and they want to make the holding Devin Haney to task some unfair thing, right? So what do people do when you start to speak honestly about what Devin Haney has to prove, that he's moving forward and that we're looking for things? People try to bring up other fighters and say that we're not holding these other fighters accountable in the same way, or these guys were big too and they took their advantages and they did their things and this and that and the other. And nobody's taking away from Devin Haney. But what I am saying is that when you're going into a fight, when as a fan going into a fight, even though we're physically not going into it, but mentally, when I'm going into a boxing match to see two people compete against each other, I have things that I'm looking for, right? And it's fair because those are the things that I haven't seen get answered in that way, right? So at the end of the day, going into this fight with Jose Ramirez, there are boxes that I'm looking to be checked because Devin Haney has shown an issue with Ryan Garcia outside of the performance enhancement drugs. And he's been held, people have criticized him in the back. I am not criticizing him, but what I am saying is that the scrutiny is fair to say that he has always conveniently had certain advantages over the fighters he's been fighting against because he's been the bigger guy. So now he gets to wait. Now he gets to fight on a more even playing field with somebody with long arms just like him, maybe even longer, tall like him, maybe even taller. And the things that he was able to get away with because he didn't have to go ahead and adjust that way because he's always been able to have the best quote unquote jab in the game. He's always been able to do these things because of the physical attributes he has. Those things won't count as much in this fight, and he'll be more on an even playing field. And I'm looking forward for him to check the boxes in that area to say, nah, it wasn't those things that you thought it was. It was actually, I'm just like that. Or he will be proving his critics correct, and he'll have a hard time dealing with the guy with the long arms who's as tall as him, who's bigger or as big as him, and he'll have to show and prove that night. Do I think he can? Yeah, I happen to think Devin Haney's a great boxer, but I think holding him accountable is cool. He doesn't need to be defended. He needs to be checking the boxes. He needs to meet the challenge that's in front of him. Shout out to Aunt McQueen in the building. Aunt McQueen, what's good, family? What's on your mind?
First and foremost, I always appreciate you and Ray having me up here. I appreciate you guys sincerely. Much respect to Echo and Fight Sport.
What's up, man?
I used to share similar sentiment as far as Devin Haney is concerned, like with the physical attributes. But then when you go back and you look over his resume, such is not the case. Yeah, he's got a handful of fighters where he enjoyed significant physical advantages, like JoJo Diaz, Yuriakis Gamboa. But then he's also fought some tall, rangy guys too, like Alfredo Santiago, Antonio Moran.
Mm-hmm.
So it hasn't been all just him just beating up on small old guys like the rhetoric would suggest. What I would say as far as Devin Haney and the whole left hook thing is concerned, honestly, I give more credit to Ryan Garcia and Derek James for that. It wasn't just a matter of them just completely exploiting some chink in Devin Haney's armor. You gotta realize both guys are coming in there with their own attributes and a game plan of their own. And it was clear what the game plan was off the outset. If you look at the most of the left hooks that Ryan Garcia landed, it was based off of timing. Like he would just like probe. It would be like he would do 2 little touches, touch with the lead hand before he would fire the left hook. He wasn't just out there just firing it just blindly.
Right.
So he was setting it up. And to Devin Haney's credit, if you look at rounds 2 through 6, he caught on to what Ryan was doing, and he was able to evade the left hook to a great extent. So he wasn't just out there just getting left hooked to death. Now, what I would say is this. When it comes to slipping, I think they definitely got to roll. They got to work on rolling back the other way. Because one thing I noticed with Devin Haney is he slips primarily to his right side.
Yeah.
And when he slips to his right, that leaves him open to a chopping right hand. And that's what Ryan Garcia was really doing most of the damage with. You go look at Devin Haney's face at the end of the fight, the whole left side of his face was contusions. It looked damn near like his jaw was broken. Because he was eating a lot of right hands. He ate more right hands than he ate left hooks. So I think defensively, that's the one thing that they definitely got to work on with him is rolling back the other way, because it showed up in other fights too. It showed up in the Jorge Linares fight. It showed up in the Jojo Diaz fight. I think for the most part, Dev is pretty good, pretty sound defensively. And here's the other thing too about Ryan Garcia timing the jab. One thing that I like that Devin Haney started doing is he started mixing it up, the timing. He wasn't just firing a naked jab out there. He hit him with a foot feint, freeze him. Another foot feint, freeze him. Then he fired a jab, and he was disrupting his timing. So that's what I want to see from Devin Haney is like, can he stay locked in like he was? Because we got to remember this, folks. He fought to a split decision despite getting bounced off the canvas like what, 3 times?
Facts.
So every round that he didn't get dropped in, pretty much won.
I agree 100%, bro.
So can he stay locked in? That's what I want to see. Can he stay locked in? Can he keep the other guy thinking, and not just rely on his athleticism, his speed, his quickness? Because Dev got a nice jab, but like, yo, before you fire the jab, hit him with a series of feints. See what he does. See if he freezes. See how he reacts. Then you fire the jab. Then you put something else behind it. But just don't fire it naked like that, like he did in the first round.
Right. Exactly.
Real quick here, we got a couple people in the building. Just make sure that we are hitting them like buttons. If you haven't subscribed, obviously, I always invite you to do that. But please, guys, if you haven't, make sure you hit the like button. I think, Ray, you were about to say something.
No, I said exactly. I mean, no, I don't need to say nothing else. Look, my spokesman spoke for me. My lawyer, thank you, Aunt McQueen. I'll be sending you a check soon.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, Devin Haney is a great fighter. He's not above scrutiny, but people need to allow him to show improve when he has time to improve. And people looking for him to do that is not unfair. You know what I'm saying? I think it's part of the game. You know what I mean? And I think at times, and this is across the board with all fans of fighters, they don't like, their ears have a hard time. The ears start itching, as my mom would say. The ears start itching as soon as you start to speak against or hold their fighter, and their instinct is to disprove something that hasn't been proven one way or another because he hasn't had the opportunity to prove it. What are you looking forward to seeing? I love that Aunt McQueen spoke towards what he wanted to see, right? The poise, the discipline, holding it down and sticking to the plan and not getting distracted or caught up. Yeah, man, there's things that you're going to look at to see with a lot of fighters. I'm sure Jose Ramirez, there's a lot of things we want to see from Jose Ramirez, or me personally, I don't watch Jose Ramirez like that, right? I've seen him fight. I've seen him fight on a Barbosa. Let's see if he's, in my opinion, the thing I want to see is whether or not he needs to continue boxing or retiring. That's in my opinion, right? That's what I'm trying to see from him. But look, man, it's okay. It's all good. I do want to slide into the final part of this, because I also, believe it or not, I only plan on being up here for an hour and a half. You guys know how that goes, right? It's going on 3 hours, so it is what it is. But I want to speak on this Top Rank PBC collaboration happening in Japan. We're seeing them roll this out. Supposedly that's what this is. And guys, feel free to share your opinion as far as whether or not you think this is what it is or not, right? But they do have Brian Norman Jr. going to get ready to defend his WBO title against Jin Sasaki, and on the other half, PBC is offering Gary Auntuanne to defend his WBA title against Andy Hiroka. What do you guys think about the fights, and also what do you think about this collaboration? Is it something that you think is going to be successful, necessary? How do you feel about the lines and the cross the street politics being challenged by the PBC and Toprank, looking like they're finally getting on the same page, and we should see more and more, hopefully, of these guys fighting each other? What do you guys think?
I got two things. One, there was no streets to ever be crossed. It was always how was the money being tampered with. The feud became, I hate this guy because he has this guy, or their stable has this, and whatever the case may be. That's where the feud became. And the fans made this feud, and it's because you've seen them guys work together multiple times. They just didn't put certain fights together because of what? The money. As far as them now coming together and collabing, because American boxing, or U.S. boxing, let's put it that way, has now kind of tied their things together, as we see UK boxing with Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren, guys who never apparently worked together or had to dislike. They're working together. Sometimes there's dead ends where you can't avoid the guy that's across the room from you, even though you don't get along with this guy per se publicly, and you have no choice but to run into him in the middle of the aisle when you're walking out the door. So I think what Turkey did by coming into the room and bringing his entourage of camels, and I'm trying to be funny here, and people with him, and the whole Aladdin theme of Ali Baba, you know what I mean? I'm the Prince Ali. Yes, I think him doing that, trying to kind of change the field of Jafar, right? Jafar being all the other boxer promoters, having to come in there and work together, because why? This guy's coming in here, he's using our fighters, he's making great fights with them. Why haven't we done this, right? Why have we done this? Why haven't we done more of this? Why did it take us so long to see what we could have been doing this whole time, making money together instead of making money away from each other? And I think that's what is happening. That's my second point, by the way. I think that's what we're starting to see. I think because of that being a notion, and us fans liking that and expressing the likeness of this, I think that changes everything that we have coming forward. And shout out to Turkey, shout out to Al Heyman. I don't think he changed. I don't think Turkey did it by himself. I just think he opened the eyes to, by the way, before it gets mistranslated. That's why I'm correcting myself now. I think he just opened the eyes to the promoter, saying that, why don't we work together more and make this money? Because these guys want to see this guy fight this guy, and it is making business for boxing, and the fans are more than welcome to see it. So I think it is a good thing that them guys are doing so, and I'm glad that they're doing it.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where competition breeds contempt. So Top Rank and PBC were definitely thinking, well, yeah, but what you said, Ray, why are we not able to get these big fights together? If Turkey can get Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren in the same room and bring fighters from other promotions in, we better. Do we just want to sit on our hands and not do anything, or do we want to, put our differences aside and make the best fights happen? If we can get fights like Tank Davis against Keyshawn Davis, I mean, this should be a good thing for the fans. Like when this news came out, one of the reasons I didn't do a video on it, and I gotta be able to move my head past this, but I was just so incensed by the amount of fans saying who was responsible for this. Oh, Turkey's changing the game. He's making his enemies work together. And people saying, this is going to run Turkey out of business. I'm like, can't we just enjoy the fights? But no, it's great. I mean, I love it. I think, as long as these guys can work together, and we'll see how long that lasts. The sky is the limit. I mean, the fights that you mentioned, Clay, Brian Norman fighting Sasaki, I mean, excellent. I see that as a real 50-50 fight. And, Norman's character impresses me. His skills, not so much, which is why I feel it's just a matter of time until Boots Ennis says, okay, all right, when do you want to give that belt to me? And Sasaki is a just very typical, exciting, super exciting Japanese fighter. Gary Antoine Russell probably pick him to win that fight. I mean, he showed me his character by beating Valenzuela after the Puello loss. So yeah, I love this. I think it's great for the sport. And just one, if I could just slide one thing in there about Haney that you guys were mentioning. I mentioned the Usyk example, like after he didn't look very good against Witherspoon, and people. I remember when Evander Holyfield looked terrible against John Ruiz, and the Albert brothers, who I typically don't think were very good commentators, they asked the question: were we too harsh on Evander Holyfield? And Bobby Shares, who was always a big critic of Holyfield, he said no. Holyfield has set the standard of how we judge him. So if he looks bad against a cherry pick, then we should criticize him, because look at what he keeps insisting he is. Devin Haney and his dad insist they are going to be the future of this generation. So we judge them. We judge them on a very high standard, and I could not agree more with you guys. It's not being overly critical when we say, well, look, you tell us that you are going to be able to reach the standard. So that is what we hold you to.
Yeah. How do you feel about it, Echo? How do you feel about the move in the coming across the street politics being thing in the past? Maybe, who knows?
Yeah, all this thing about other side of the street, it's just stupid, really, to be honest. I mean, talking about like Hearn and Frank, they have worked before. They've done 2 fights before. So it's not like it's never happened. And every time, as we know, when the PBC fight Top Rank, they don't win. It's Top Rank who are winning the fights. So, and that's another reason why, it's all in-house. People want to do in-house. That's why there's PBC fights. That's the way to keep it in the family, basically. So unless it's going to have enough monetary value, and it could be enough money to be made, even if they do lose, they won't take those fights. So it's got to be, it's all about money. Like Ray said, I agree with everything what Ray said.
No doubt, man. Salute Robert Chandler in the building. Salute King. Hey, so Ant, what you think about this, man? Is it, and when you're done responding, Ant, I got another angle I want to put on this, because I feel like it's still same. I feel like it's cross the street politics going on. I just think it's happening on the same card. But Ant, go ahead. What do you think about it?
I think Echo and Ray said it beautifully, man. It's been going on, and he's spot on as far as the history between PBC and Top Rank. I don't know what the record is right now, but it's looking pretty abysmal. Between like Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, Shakur Stevenson, Edwin De Los Santos. We just had what's the name over there last year. That was horrible, man. Shout out to my guy Cool Boy. Because remember, he's a PBC fighter. He fought over there on Top Rank, fought against Monster Inoue in Japan. So, yeah, these guys they've kind of been collaborating in plain sight. Like, they've been hidden in plain sight, because we say these guys don't make things happen. They don't do X, Y, Z. They do. But to Echo's point, it's like, why am I going to keep sending my guys over there if every time we send them over there, we can't get the dub?
It's discouraging, right?
It is. So the money's got to be right in order to mortgage that fighter's, potential future.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's always been a lack of development, in my opinion, over on the PBC side, where it's like the PBC side seems to have always taken advantage of stars and keeping them, in the winning column and exciting entertainment fights. You know what I mean? Like, they've always kind of tapped into that, where it seems like Top Rank has been more focused on the development, like making fighters better fighters. You know what I'm saying? Over there, producing better product, developing fighters into championship quality fighters. Whereas Top PBC always seems to have been able to do well with the finished products. You know what I'm saying? I
agree with that, Clay, but I'll take it a step further to your point, because you just made a fantastic point. Look at their scouting. Look at Top Rank Scouting. They love their Olympic medalists.
Right.
Lomachenko, Olympic gold medalist. Shakur Stevenson, Olympic silver medalist. Keyshawn, Olympic silver medalist. You know what I'm saying? Back in the day, Muhammad Ali, all them guys,
Yeah.
gold medalists. Like Top Rank has a history of that. Sugar Ray Leonard. They've been doing this. They know how to scout them, man.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. But look at what's happening, right? They're painting this picture and selling it to us as they're going to be collaborating to put fights together. But what I'm seeing is Gary Antoine Russell's fighting one guy who's not a top ranked fighter, right? And well, I don't know if it's a top ranked fighter because this is Japan. It's very well maybe a top ranked fighter, but you know what I'm saying. And Brian Norman is fighting, you know what I'm saying, separately. So they're still on the separate sides of the streets. They're not fighting against each other, you know what I'm saying, on this card. So like you guys said, and I think Ann said it, you know, it's the same thing. We've seen this before. I think what the fans want to see is more of what they don't want to do, which is we want to see top ranked fighters fighting against PBC fighters. We want to see certain fights happening. And I don't think this card or this thing happening in Japan is selling the story the right way. Like this, that's not what this is. This is not a rollout to a new day. This is a continuation of what you guys have been doing. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not rolling out something. You're doing what you've been doing. Rolling out something is putting out your best fighters against that company's best fighters, or at least, you know, a cross promotion in that way of fighters fighting each other more consistently. And then I'll be a little bit more hopeful. I guess at the end of the day, I'm just not sold. You know what I mean? That this is some sort of a rollout of something new. I'm not sold on it. I don't see that I don't see this as that. You know, I still think we're dealing with two separate things. And I don't think you guys are rolling out. I think you guys are playing games. I don't believe it yet. Keep on going. You know what I mean? We'll see what the next one is, but this ain't the one that's selling to me. That's pushing me over the top. This ain't the one. But I'm excited to see. Look, Brian Norman's going to get some great exposure internationally. I expect him to handle this. I've watched some film on Jin Sasaki. I'm not that impressed. I think he's going to be walking into a lot of ish, and I think he's going to get stopped pretty early. I ain't gonna lie to you. I think
really.
Yeah, Jin Sasaki takes a lot of chances. He got sat on his pockets on his last fight. You know what I'm saying? He's gonna walk into something. Brian Norman loves the Jin Sasakis of the world. I think he's gonna eat until there's nothing left on the plate. As far as the Gary Antoine, I think that's gonna be a great fight. I think Andy Hiroko is a great fighter. He's a great dance partner. I think he's gonna get stopped too, though. You know what I'm saying? I think he's gonna get stopped too. But I think it's gonna be a great fight. But I think Jin gonna get.
I think you can say the Jin Sasaki and Brian Norman fight. I think you have the same fighter opposite sides of each other, because I think Brian Norman does exactly the same thing as Jin
Brian
Sasaki.
delivers it more, right? Like Brian gives it better. Like
I agree. Yeah. That I was going there, but I think they're the same fighter. I think Jin has a little bit more upbeat in his steps and in his bounce. So that may be a little bit dysfunctional for Brian Norman.
Brian, like a little off.
Yeah, it might herky jerky, right? Give him that little. Okay, well, he ain't right in front of me, but you know what I mean. But I think they're pretty much the same fighter, man. It's a mirror of each other. It's almost like Rolly versus Rolly again. The only difference is these guys are punching.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you, by the way. Yeah, I think that Brian takes chances, willing to take chances, but I think he's a little more defensively responsible than he's a little more defensively responsible than Jin. Jin is there for he's a great showman. Like he's there for the show. Like he delivers the show, but I think the consequence and the price of the show, the price of admission for him is you also leave yourself susceptible to getting hit. You take those chances, and I think Brian Norman's not the type of person you want to be in front of. I think the tickets price is going to be a little too high for him. You know what I mean?
And by the way, Clay, I 100% agree with you. He, like I said, very typical Japanese fighter. So sacrifices defense for excitement. You know, his defense is his offense. The thing is, the reason why I see this fight is a bit closer than you do is because I feel the same way about Brian Norman, and I see somewhat in Sasaki, like I see somewhat of what Naoya Inoue showed when he was dropped for the first time against Luis Neri, and he was hurt. He showed fantastic awareness, like because when I watched that fight live, and I said this in my channel was only around for 2 months at the time, but I said this in my post-fight video, which is still up, I said I was expecting him to sort of panic, and he didn't. He still had his hands down around his waist, and he never got caught by the same punch again. So I thought, wow. Now, I am not saying Sasaki is as good as Inoue, not even close, but I see somewhat of the same kind of confidence. So, but yeah, it's a very close fight, and yeah, so it's going to be.
I'll say this though:
Right.
if Brian Norman in Jin Sasaki's fight is more competitive than it should be, I believe Brian Norman Jr.'s stock gets hurt. I believe all this Jerome Boots energy. Okay. I believe all this 147 dominating energy, all this, these guys ain't got nothing for me energy. Yeah, bro. I think he's going to get compromised. I ain't going to lie. You know what I'm saying? I think that right now, Brian Norman Jr. is arguably the number 2 guy at 147. You know what I mean? I think that's what the argument is. But I think this fight with Jin Sasaki being too competitive, like some I'm talking like split decision type of energy. I don't know. You guys let me know what you think, but that's where I'm at with it. I'm expecting him to go over there. I think Jin Sasaki's there to be dined on. You know what I'm saying? I think unless Jin Sasaki switches,
maybe he is. Yep. I mean, it's been a while since I've been on, but every show I was on, I said like the one question I had about Boots Ennis was how much has the weight cut going to affect him, not having to cut as much weight, and you know was some of his lackluster performances a result of being bored because he couldn't get Crawford to fight him, and it turned out to be that. I mean, he looked excellent against Stanionis, and I don't see anybody beating him in this division. So with Norman, again, I'm impressed with his heart, and that is one of the key things. You know, we talk about it as content creators. If you don't have heart, it's, you know, I understand now what I didn't understand as a kid, why people who I looked up to and learned from, Larry Merchant, Jim Lampley, Bert Sugar, Max Kellerman, Roy Jones, they said, if you don't have heart, basically, I don't want to know you, because Marvin Hagler wasn't considered marvelous until he came through the fire against Tommy Hearns, and you know, Ray Leonard wasn't considered anything more than really a pretty boy until he stood his ground and took his ass whooping against Duran. So yeah, if you've got heart, love it. But Boots Ennis has just crazy skill, so we'll see. We'll also see how he does again, because I think 154, I definitely right now I would pick Virgil Ortiz to beat him, because not because I question his heart, but it's a whole nother game when you've got guys who can punch, who are bigger than you or similar size, and I'm not sure, but we'll see.
Yes, sir. Excited to see too, by the way. Aunt McQueen, well, you know, I think everybody answered the question on this one already. I think we're good. All right, that being said, right? Everybody spoke on this. We spoke about this PBC. All right, cool. Because it's about that time for me. I'm not gonna lie. I gotta go run and handle stuff. I'm putting stuff together in here, and I need to get to that. I know the wife's probably looking at me. You liar! You ain't nothing but a lie. You said an hour and a half. You a lie. You a damn lie. Ain't nothing good in you. Ain't nothing good in you.
Just before we head off, Clay, just very quickly, because we've had a few time changes here in New Zealand. Will you maybe be changing the times that you guys do go live? Because I'll again, it's a little tricky because of the time difference in New Zealand, but you know, I'll definitely, again, you guys, I keep saying this to where you guys are probably sick of it. You guys are my favorite show. So if there are any time changes, I'll definitely try, you know, look at the schedule.
No doubt. No comment on that yet. Sure. Things are in the air. I don't know yet, but I'll definitely let you know. I mean, for now it's going to be that, but I am acknowledging the time. I'm trying to find that perfect window, you know what I mean, where I give, you know, where it's just kind of difficult, but it's definitely taken into consideration. I just don't got the answers yet to that.
Yeah, when we did 1 o'clock, it was pretty cool. 1 to 4, I think we got through a lot. We was, you know, if that works better for you, we did because we got the West Coast guys coming in too,
right?
And that helped. I think the morning was better for us to a degree for people stateside. But I understand where you're coming from, man. I don't want to. We don't want to lose fans, obviously. You know what I mean? And you tap in either way. But just the fact that it's hard, as Clay says, it's hard because you're gambling with a lot of different time zones and things of that nature. You have to find the right recipe to. As Clay,
right in there where it leaks, where it gives everybody kind of
and that's. And I'm very close. I'm just I'm in the process of putting together times when I'll be going live on my channel regularly. I'm thinking, damn, how do I'm in the country nobody even knows about. So how do I juggle these times?
I got plans.
And anyway, just before I'll head off, because again, great to be on. You guys again, #1 show, and it's an honor to be able to be on early with you guys. Shout out to Echo, shout out to everyone in the chat. I'll be getting back to regular uploads and shorts and again staying live soon. And yeah, it's always great, guys. Peace out, and yeah, respect to everyone.
No doubt, man. Salute. I appreciate you, man. Thank you. Echo, what's on your mind, man? We on our way out.
I'm just gonna
By the way,
say,
thank you for coming up today because I ain't seen you in a minute, so it was great to see you up here.
I've been doing different things as as I've told you before. I've not got hours and hours to watch stuff like everybody else has, to be honest.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well,
But
that's why
I'm always going to support you guys where I can, and
that's
if
why
I
it's
can
so valuable to
contribute.
come up here because I know you got so much stuff going on. So that's why I always thank you because I know.
And if I can give some insight or give some contribute in some way, I'm happy to do that.
Yes, sir, I appreciate you.
Yeah, you guys are doing a great job anyway. Oh, by the way, I think Boots Ennis is going to be difficult to beat anyway when he goes up next way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I agree. I just think
Sorry, go on. What are you saying, right?
I was going to say the competition. I just think is not going to run away from them like they did at 147. I think because these guys are bigger, stronger. Just I think they have more. They feel more safe to get in the ring with them.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and they'll trade with them as well.
Right.
I think he could possibly beat Ortiz. Virgil Ortiz, I think he could beat him with the right tactics, basically. Yeah. It's all about strategy a lot of times, guys.
Right. It's all about that what they say, the bag, the tools in the bag, right? Are you gonna adjust?
Yeah, of course.
Are you gonna, when you don't need the hammer, can you put the hammer away? Do you have an Allen wrench in there? Do you got a screwdriver in there? Because I think this one needs a screwdriver. I don't know. I think this one right here needs a needle nose plier for this one right here. You don't have one of those? This might not be your night because it's in need of it, right?
See, it's not just knowing how to do it; it's the why and the when. It's like I can undo a screw with a penny, but it's not the best tool to use.
Right. So what is it? How's it go, Echo? It's one thing to have the knowledge, but it's another to have the wisdom.
Yeah, well, this is why this is the 4 pillars of Stoicism: wisdom, knowledge. Mm-hmm. You need wisdom. You know what I mean?
Right.
Wisdom and knowledge are 2 different things.
Yes, sir.
And that's why a lot of the boxes need to be detached and not be too attached to their wins so much, because when people lose, that's when they tend to ponder. Everybody's partying when they're winning. That's what happens a lot. A lot of the boxers, they just get caught up in the wins, and they don't analyze anything. There's just enough to be learned from a win as there is from a loss. But don't think because you're going to knock people out every time. Nobody does that.
Exactly. All right, so let's close it up, man. I gotta go.
All right, man. Take it easy, you guys. Thanks for the time and great show. Okay, bye bye.
Appreciate you. Thank you, Echo.
Yeah,
you're welcome.
Yes, sir. Well, listen, first of all, I won't shout out wifey government, but Miss Rain, he ain't gonna blame me on this one.
It's on me, man. I'm just hard.
Okay. Yeah, man. Listen, great conversation. I love the little inner attributes me and you come together with, and bringing our science to acknowledge what boxing is really about. I love the fact that The fans enjoy it. Shout out to Blaze. Welcome to the channel today. Again, I just think that boxing is in a place that it is growing back to a main sport across the world, not just here in the States. I think we're us as fans are starting to show support, and I think stateside is starting to pick up. It's just picking up in places, as they would say, in the back alleyways, right? So eventually, what's in the back alley comes to the streets, and when it comes to the streets, it becomes prime. I think boxing is moving right back into a prime zone. I think we all are a big part of that. Every single one of us, every channel, every fan, every casual fan, every boxer fan, boxing fan, we're all bringing this back to the forefront. And I wouldn't be surprised to say that boxing is going to be bigger than ever in the next couple of years. Before I said blame Ray.
It is what
Anyway,
it is, man.
Go ahead. But anyway, on that note, thank you, man. Appreciate having me. As always, Clay, as a co-host, man. You're doing a fantastic job. Yeah, I don't know who that is. It's okay. Malik Taylor. Oh, you're in a circus. I get it now. Okay. All right. You got a red nose, so you're a clown. Okay. No problem, Malik Taylor. We respect that. It's cool. Moving forward. So anyway, Clay, yeah, man, it's just respect for what you have done to the channel, to the platform. You're changing that space little by little. I'm glad I could be a part of it, and I mean, glad I could be the inspiration to a degree. You know, I know you don't say my name when you talk about it. It's cool. I listen, but I love the fact that you still acknowledge it and we talk in private. So it means a lot to me. You don't have to give me accolades, and I appreciate it, and I know it comes from the heart. Same to you. So keep building, keep doing what you got to do, destroy what you need to destroy, and roll tide.
No doubt. Shout out to you, man. Appreciate you, man, too, man. Thank you. Hey, man, you know how it is. It's been a good one. It's been boxing talk. If you love boxing talk, you usually find yourself having a good time here, man. And we appreciate having you guys here, man. Until the next one, man. I don't know if I'm going to do a live for this Chris Eubank fight or not. I might. The hours are kind of weird. Keep your ears to the street and your eyes on your notifications. We'll see what happens. But worst case scenario, we'll be back next week. You know how we carry it. It's your boy Rain. It's your boy Rain. It's that ATP Combat Media Show. And at this point,
we out, yo.
We out, though.
I know they hate when you elevate. The second of losses, I'm handing them out. Yeah, I had to go delegate. It feel like I'm floating, I'm lost in the moment. I swear I could levitate. They never believed that I would really fly. I had to go demonstrate. I had to set them straight. They hate when you elevate.